Welcome to the 19th regular board meeting of the District MSAD52 Board of Directors. I'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We're going to start off this evening with the minutes of the 18th regular meeting. Those came in the earlier email a couple weeks ago if we didn't get it tonight. So does anybody have any corrections, errors, omissions, anything like to change?
I just emailed you all a link for tonight's folder. Hopefully you have it. My apologies. I think Martha put it together and then probably didn't send it. Yeah. But look at the ease of using your laptop.
I feel there's a sub-content, there's a concept. Anthony.
Under item, I believe 831 or 813, my name is misspelled, that's all.
Oh, we can definitely fix that.
Last paragraph of that section.
You get that?
Maybe. 813, yes.
Save it.
8.1.3
Okay.
or 8.13, one of the two.
We got it fixed.
All right, so we'll get that.
We'll find it.
Yeah, we're fine. Anything else, folks? All right, not seeing any, we'll accept with the modification and improvements. All right, that takes us to the report of the board chair. We have a fair amount to go through tonight, so all I'm going to say is thank you for finding us. We've moved locations, and we didn't trick any of you, so that's pretty good. We will, in 2 weeks, on the 11th, we are changing locations again. I'm not sure where we were supposed to be. Where we were supposed to be in Leeds, maybe? But anyways, we're going to be at the auditorium on the 11th. So if you're planning to attend on the 11th, we'll be in the auditorium here instead of wherever we were supposed to be. All right, so that's going to take us to public comment. And this public comment will be for both, well, this is open for everything. This is for the budget as well as, because we're not going to do another one later. So this is general public comment. Any questions about the budget, because we are going to have a budget work session immediately following public comment. As probably everybody here knows, the budget did fail. So we will be working tonight to make modifications and hopefully bring forward a new budget after this evening to move forward with. So that being said, is there anybody who would like to speak this evening? Okay, that being said, hold on one second, please. Our board meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying out the official business of our schools. It is important to note that meetings of the board are open to the public. However, they are not public forums. At each full board meeting, time is allocated to provide opportunities for citizens and employees to express opinions and concerns related to the matters under consideration by the board. These comments shall be within the guidelines set forth in Board Policy BEDH, Public Participation at Board Meetings. Copies of the policy are available here and on the district's website. I would like to highlight the following. The chair is responsible for recognizing all speakers. Sorry. We ask that the speakers identify themselves by sharing the name and town of residence. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes to express their views. Speakers should direct all comments to the board, specifically the board chair. This is an opportunity for the board to listen to the opinions of the public that are related to school and educational matters. It is not intended to be a conversation or a debate of issues. We know that school-related issues can be emotional, but we ask that civility is maintained. We will not permit profanity, gossip, defamatory, sorry folks, shouting at one another or comments that disparage or attack individuals or groups. The board is faced with many important issues. For the sake of efficiency, the board discourages duplication or repetition of comments. The board will not permit complaints or allegations against staff members. We certainly care about these concerns, but they are personnel matters which the board is not permitted to hear in public. If there are complaints against staff, this will be handled appropriately through our complaint policy KE. To reiterate, this is just a highlight of key points. Please refer to policy BEDH for a complete description of our public participation policy. I apologize, that was one of the rougher times for me on that one. All right, does anybody like this? Who would like to speak tonight? Crystal, you first, ladies first. Oh, and 1 second, Crystal, just so you know, it is our permanent practice now that whatever you're talking about, if you're in the audience, I am going to ask you to stand up and come forward. This is for the people in the owl here to hear us better. So everybody, if you're in the audience, we will be asking you to come forward to the microphone. That's going forward. Thank you, Crystal.
Crystal Nicholas from Green. We often hear the manipulative bullying remark that if one does not support the budget, one does not support our children in schools. It is unfortunate that we find ourselves as a community in a situation where we cannot responsibly fund what we have created. This might be a sign that earlier decisions to expand spending were intended. Perhaps past directors suggested increases concurrent with their personal finances, but out of touch with the rest of our community. I hope that this budget reassessment will not be littered with excuses such as, folks are mad about politics, so they lashed out at the budget, or there's no possible way to lower this budget other than to cut physical education for elementary schools. We have better choices for cuts, administrative staff and salaries, and less spent supporting and expanding screens, which do not support the health or learning of our children. What are the lessons that these tax burdens communicate to our students? If you don't get the results you want, just spend more. Does anyone actually believe that this is going to help our scores? What about grandparents and older family members? Do they really deserve to keep their property on a fixed income? What about families just starting out and low-income earners? Should they really be able to afford a place to live? Because these things are happening here, property tax is an unconscionable way to extract forced support of the public schools, especially considering the scores. Public schools should be voluntarily funded by the community based on their responsiveness to the needs of the local students and families and based on their successful performance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who else would like to speak? Please, come on. The gentleman with the glasses. Please state your name, your town of residence.
I'm Marquette from the town of Green. I just had a couple of suggestions. Some of the big ticket items, first off, is going to be the purchase of the land. $500,000 just for the property is going to quickly turn into hundreds of thousands to millions to build a bus depot and a fuel station, which really aren't fully necessary. There is space, although it may not be ideal. There is space, and there's a fuel station in every single direction from the school within a couple miles. So there's no reason we need our own transfer pumps. Second thing, I would say we're trying to lower a budget. Let's look at positions that don't directly impact our kids. One of those being administrative roles. There's no law or requirement that says we have to have a superintendent. So one of the positions we could cut is superintendent, assistant superintendent, any of the other administrative staffs, and we could outsource that to a partner school for about 30% of what we would spend on having our own. We lose some control over that, but it would save us a lot of money. And when it comes down to it, when you guys are looking at what to cut, it's, are we cutting what's gonna reach our kids, or are we cutting the people that are gonna continue to put up red tape, make things difficult, really have no impact on anyone other than the parents' lives? And those are my big suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Could I have, please come up, sir, in the blue.
I'm Bob Manchester from Turner, and I'm here to talk about the budget. I paid taxes in Turner for 30 years, dutifully trudging off to the town office to put my money across the counter so that our school system could receive those funds and could benefit from those funds. And every year, of course, the school budget went higher and higher. But performance numbers, educational performance numbers, always went lower and lower. What is going on? I couldn't figure it out. I still can't figure it out. But evidently that appears to be the trend in this state and in this town. So there is, you can imagine my disappointment every year going through the same process. So as over those years, I sacrificed in my own personal transportation, my cars that I would buy and run and use were always old. I would buy a 10-year car, maybe a car might be 15 years old, or a car might be 20. My last one was a 2006 Camry. And so I would sacrifice and take those savings that I could have spent on a new car and sent them to the school, figuring, wow, I can really get a great return on my investment. But it never happened. As I would walk around the school from time to time on my walk, I could see how they were spending my money. As I sacrificed with my proverbial rust buckets, the school always had new, shiny vehicles. Buses, vans, trucks, even trucks with new snowplows on them. Always new, shiny. And I thought, my cars are maintained. I always got them inspected. Mine were always safe. But the town, evidently, when it comes to my money, they didn't think that way. They thought they could live in luxury, providing with all of the fancy equipment, vehicles. No maintenance required. Well, I was crawling into my car to change the oil. They probably were just discarding the new bus. Maybe they just gave it away or sold it. I don't know how the system works.
If you just kind of could finish up, please.
I will.
Thank you.
It's very frustrating. And there must be places where the budget could be cut. If I can cut my budget to sacrifice, perhaps the school board could find ways to cut the school budget.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak this evening? Way over on the right, I've lost you first. How are you, madame?
Joanne Nickerson from Turner, and I don't really have a lot to say. My first comment was just that I think we're hearing a lot that maybe we don't need to hear because public comments are coming before we find out what's happening with the budget. And continuing on from there, I think my two suggestions would be for 513, you have act on proposed elimination of positions. I would suggest two things. One, that any positions that are cut, that an equal or similar amount of administration would be cut. And the second one would be, has anybody looked at academic coaches? There's not a whole, it's not going to affect class size. And I'm not sure that scores have gone up since academic coaches have been put in. So those would be my two suggestions, and I think we're hearing a lot of stuff we might not need to hear if we had public comment after we knew what was happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanne. Far back left, please.
Hello, my name's Rebecca Trujillo. I'm from Leeds. I'm also a district employee. I'm the art teacher at Leeds Central School and Green Central School. Been a Leeds resident for about 35 years. And I have 4 kids in the district. We have 4 principals in this room that have my kids in their schools. I was surprised, actually, that the budget didn't pass. I felt like 4% was a reasonable amount, and our district is pretty good at passing budgets typically. I would say that I think our advertisement about voting day is not great. Usually on a voting day, when I drive past the town office, there's like a little sign out there, like, remember to vote, and There wasn't last week. I'm a busy mom and a teacher, and I got home that night after picking all my kids up from sports, and I was like, oh my, I opened my school email, as we do in the evening, and there was a reminder to vote, so I left and went and voted, and I think maybe some additional advertisement would help on voting days, because I think our district is typically supportive. I know that as a teacher, we feel that the district already has a budget that is spread very thin. I know it doesn't always feel that way to parents, but last year when our budget was frozen, we were rationing copy paper in the schools. You know, it wasn't like we were rolling in a bunch of extra money somewhere. I know that one of the proposed actions will be to cut some ed tech positions that aren't currently filled. That's a really unfortunate thing to do to our students. The reason those positions are there is because we desperately need extra support in the schools. As a teacher who has ed techs in my room, sometimes it is so valuable to my instruction to have that extra support in my building, and I wish we could fill all of those positions because we need them. If I was going to propose somewhere that I think we could cut the budget, and I know that this isn't going to be popular, so I apologize, it could be the instructional coaching program. That's a large amount of money to put a person in each building. I think it does benefit some teachers, but it's been made mandatory that all teachers do a coaching cycle, and not all teachers need a coaching cycle. There are many very experienced teachers that are doing really well, and sometimes when they go to seek support, the coaches don't have something to offer them as support to how to help them improve their instruction. That's a really big chunk of our budget, and I think it would be valuable to have coaches in the district who can support teachers who need it, or are seeking it, or need to improve on their evaluations. But for teachers who are proficient or exceeding expectations, that shouldn't be a mandatory expectation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please.
My name is Judy Manchester, and I am a resident in Turner. I've been for more than 30 years now. And I was really concerned about the budget, how much money it was. I just can't believe how much money you were asking for, and I just wonder what it is all getting spent on. I'm on a fixed income, Social Security. I can't always ask for a lot of money and get money for my survival. My property taxes go up every year. In 2022, the state of Maine passed an ordinance where if you were seniors, you could have your property tax stay the same, and then it went away the next year. In 3 years, my property taxes have gone up another $300. We can't afford anymore. And I think you people have to make some difficult decisions. Where are you going to cut? I would like you to maintain the education of the kids. Can they calculate things? I see people out, young people who can't make change in the stores. They can't do simple calculations. We need to focus on educating our kids, and I would cut back on all of the activities and focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic. Teach our kids so that they can function in society when they get out of school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak this? Please come up.
Hey everybody, my name is Nathan Mihalik. I live in Leeds. I was contemplating whether I wanted to speak because I wanted to kind of hear what you had for ideas for budget cuts tonight. But I think what we saw from our vote on May 21st is that the towns can no longer afford to build pretty buildings and lose our education process. Our focus needs to be what dollar actually impacts the students directly. Our teachers fully reach our students. The ed techs reach our students. The administration, on the other hand, is something we need to look at as an option cut. It's a hard decision, I know. It's not something that everybody wants to hear. It's somebody's livelihood, but it's something we need to consider, because from what I saw from this budget that I hold in my hand, the proposal was that we were spending $3 million in administration and $13,000 in career and technical education. So there's a disconnect between where the money needs to go and where it's actually going. And we really need to make some hard decisions. It's nothing that we want to do. It's nothing that is easy to do, but we have to start thinking what's right and not just what feels good. We have to make decisions where we trim where it's necessary. Trimming is not in the schools with our teachers who fully impact our students every single day, but where it's not reaching our students with the administration piece. And I'd like you to seriously consider that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Susan, please.
Susan Shaw from Turner. I just wanted to share that on voting day, I shared the district's post about the reminder to vote on a couple of the local social media pages. And it kind of blew my mind that nobody knew there was a vote that day. And I didn't post it until like 2:30 in the afternoon because I didn't see anybody else post a reminder anywhere. So I was like, people should probably know it's voting day. And it was definitely overwhelming how many people didn't realize that there was a school budget vote on that day. And the data supports that. I'm not sure how many registered voters we have in Leeds and Turner, but only 600 people voted. And I think that's your problem. The major problem about why the budget didn't pass was because it wasn't advertised enough that it was the vote. And I realize it's not your job to spoon feed our citizens of, when things are happening in their community, they should be seeking that information, but it will help if you make sure that all of the dates for the district vote and the validation referendum are clearly out there many days before in multiple places. That's just my suggestion.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak this evening? Come on up, Jim.
Jimmy Childs, Leeds. So a few weeks ago, my dad, he's out back. We're a family. We've lived in Leeds a long time. We're a family that have, junk cars, a bunch of junk around, storage buildings full of stuff that my kids will probably throw out someday because, we probably will never use it, but you just want to have stuff. He's out there and he's tearing a couple old sheds apart, cleaning them out. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? It's all your stuff. He says, I just can't afford the taxes anymore. Now, we know that tearing a few sheds down, your taxes ain't going to go down very much. But when my 72-year-old father is out there cleaning his junk out that he's kept forever and tearing buildings down because the tax is too high when he owns his property, there's something wrong. I'm very fortunate that I own my property, but $2 grand, $2,200, $2,500 a year now, it ain't going to be long before that's probably $5 grand. And I wonder when I do give that to my kids, because I don't have that to sell to ever get anything for myself. It's for my kids when they get older. I wonder if they're going to be able to afford it. I wonder if they'll be able to afford it. I have to pay taxes. We pay taxes to this school. My daughter graduated from here. Had a great time here. I have 2 boys that are going here right now. And I don't mind paying taxes to the school, but I just hope something changes down along the line to where my kids will always be welcome in this place, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Anybody else like to speak this evening? And just a reminder, this will be anything, not just budget, all the other work we are doing well after the budget. Not seeing any. Thank you all for being here. At this point, we're going to go into the budget work session. I am going to basically turn it over to the superintendent at this point, ask her to give us a report of where we stand, as well as the recommendations from the administration, and then the board can run with it from there.
All right, so you ask questions, stop me at any point if there's anything you want to ask about or suggest or anything like that, okay? So we got 2 questions prior to tonight, so I just want to provide those pieces of information.
Carrie, could you, 1 second? Does the majority of the crowd able to see that, or should we need to turn it a little bit?
The angle not very.
All right, we're getting thumbs up, so I guess we're good.
We're good?
Yeah, we're getting thumbs up over
I'm
so
gonna have to do this. So first question, Anthony did ask how much a 0.5 decrease would look like in the budget. So we did that calculation, it's about $195,900. We do have a model that includes that amount, so we'll give you the budget, the impact to the towns in the presentation, okay? The second question Alex asked, this one, we're probably less confident exactly to the penny on this one, just because it was pretty last minute, but still a great question, so thank you. So how much of the budget was an increase from contractual obligations? And so Gabby and I, when we talked about this, we talked about just those contracts that are negotiated. So that is the teacher contract, the support staff contract, our bus drivers maintenance contract, administrators, school administrators, and then the NICE agreement, which is basically like the business office and a couple other folks. So for those groups, the salary increase in this budget was $924,264. We've got about 185 teachers, just to give people a rough sense of that. I can't rattle off the number for ed techs and food service and all that. Well, food service. So this number, what we couldn't pull out is it includes first food service workers, but they're not in this budget. So we'd have to probably, I wouldn't even, Gabby and I couldn't even like come up with a number. It's not hundreds of thousands, but like, so food service is in that number, but they are not, we don't need, none of this budget pays for food service. So that's the only funky thing about that number. And then health insurance is district-wide. So this year, the health insurance increase was $696,000, so basically $700,000. And that comes from an 11.2% increase. So those were the two things I got ahead of time that we're able to sort of provide you with that information, those numbers. Do those both make sense? You understand? Okay. All right. So the administrative team did get together. Gabby and I did some work Monday morning, presented the administrative team with a couple of suggestions, and then additional suggestions were provided. So this is our best thinking between Monday and today. We have basically two options depending on where you all want to settle. Okay? Okay, so just to be clear, the current budget that was voted down at referendum was for $39,181,450. That was a 4.8% increase over FY26. And I'm just giving you the reminder of what that increase looked like in each town. So the option one that we're going to talk about reduces that increase to 4.59, so it's a $150,000 increase. Decrease, and it reduces Greens overall to 5.94, Leeds to 4.11, Turner to 1.59, with a total average of 3.49. So that's the list that I'm going to give you with that. Again, that's just option one. So what did we do? So in regular instruction, we got a little bit more in Title I funding than we expected. That came in after the budget was set. So we're going to access that additional funds to move more of an instructional coach position into Title I funding. The green coach, and the reason it's green is because Green and Leeds receive the title funding from the government because of their free and reduced lunch rate. So we had moved about 15% of that person's salary. This would add an additional $34,000 to that, making it close to half of the salary, I think, moving into Title I. Is that about right? A little bit over half. We had a whole bunch of different books, regular instruction, Leads, some software that we did not need at the elementary level, 3D printer in the high school science equipment, keyboards for music class at Turner Primary, and instruments. So that, the rest of that is just smaller things, but things that we still identified that we could move forward, not cut programs or anything like that without those things. So that's all in warrant article 1, so regular instruction. Other instruction, which is 4 or 5, which warrant article is other instruction? Sorry, 4, thank you. That is primarily where our athletics lives. So the high school was in need of a replacement golf cart, the one they've got that helps the athletic trainer get around to all of the events and transport injured students. That golf cart is dead. We had put it in the budget. We have removed that, or proposing to remove that from the budget. We had also, for our athletic trips, we've been over budget the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, for transportation for athletics, because we have had to contract for those trips, because we have not had enough drivers in-house. We're proposing to reduce both at the high school and the middle school by $10,000. We had increased that a total of $50,000, so it still leaves an increase. But we are, we're gonna be hopeful that we are not gonna be as reliant on contracted transportation as we move forward with some new leadership in the department. So we're feeling like we can remove that and not be taking a really big risk. We had put in there an expansion basketball team for the middle school. That is not, we ran that this year. If you recall, in the middle of the season, we asked for an amount to run that, but because that is new, we are proposing to remove that. And then after looking at the total collections of our libraries, we sort of determined that the current number of books that they have is sufficient. Teresa did some research on sort of like what the collection should look like per pupil, and so we've reduced, we're proposing to reduce all of the library books. We had to reduce them originally to $19. We're proposing to reduce all of them to $17 per student. So that results in a $4,600 reduction. Then in student and staff support, which is where technology lives, we are proposing another $4,800 from technology. So there's a $1,000 district-wide software line, and repairs and supplies across the school. So it would touch all the schools for a total of $3,800. For facilities, now just a reminder, facilities was a tiny increase over last year, 1-point-something%. It was a decrease. So facilities is very tight, but there was one project at Leeds that we identified, the replacement of 4 whiteboards for $8,800. I'm going to tell you that it's entirely possible that a whiteboard is going to get replaced just because they're in pretty rough shape. But that was the project that made the most sense, and then if we have to reduce funding somewhere else because a whiteboard just is not going to make it for next year, we may have to do that. Just saying that up front, but that is the one new thing. It originally was in the budget because as our tech director, Wally Morris, rewires the schools, we use a lot of grant funding for that. What we try to do is get each room so that it's set up the same way to reduce the amount of changes in wiring. It standardizes everything to simplify and also reduce costs. This was a part of that project. We're 1 year, probably at least 1 or 2 years away from rewiring at Leeds, so that's why we decided that that might be able to be put off. We are also proposing an additional transfer of $50,000 from the unallocated fund balance. So this is a conversation we've had a couple times this year. The unallocated fund balance is money that is remaining in the budget at the end of the year that we did not spend. We have made good use of that money in facilities in particular to avoid borrowing for big projects. But we did increase the amount of money we transferred from the unallocated fund balance this year. It seemed to be the appropriate thing to do, to use more of that money to reduce the tax burden. So in prior years, in the 3 budgets prior to this year, we were transferring $555,000. That number had been used for several years prior to my arrival. But given that each year the budget's gone up a little bit, it made sense to bring more over. So the budget that failed had $600,000. We are proposing that it go to $650,000. We still think that that's a reasonable number. It still leaves us with an unallocated fund balance for emergency spending, as well as being able to tackle larger projects through the reserve account, should we need to. So that is another recommendation. And yes. So that is, that's where that lands, okay? So let me go back to the beginning to give you what that impact is of what I just shared with you in terms of what the overall budget would look like and then what the impact would be for the towns. that's the first one. Do you want to hear more? Because there is, if you want to hear
That's
other
the, that is
options,
the
we can do that.
150. Do we want to, I assume, you want to see what the options are for 200? I assume it's 200 thereabouts.
Yep.
I'm seeing a lot of head nods.
Yep, so that 150, to get another 50,000, that's a position. There's just no way to, we went through all the other smaller items to nickel and dime. So when we looked at that, the position that we identified is currently a position we have with an employee in it. It is a regular instruction Ed Tech 3 at the middle school. That position is used for intervention, it's used for in-school suspension, general behavioral support, general supervision of students. I'm looking at Jana to make sure I don't miss anything. So that person is really just identified as supporting students and intervening when necessary, and then providing supervision when students are in in-school suspension or require additional supervision throughout the day when behaviors are interfering with the learning of others and potentially the learning, obviously the learning of the child, but potentially the learning of others, or potential unsafe situations. So there is open positions at the middle school, so the person would be given the opportunity to transfer that, but that's the position that we identified as having the least overall. We have open ed tech positions, but in almost every case, we currently have a sub in those roles. In a couple of cases where we have additional ed techs in the budget for Turner Elementary in particular, we have already been hiring long-term subs for particular students who need it. So those positions are in the budget specifically in response to those student needs. So we could eliminate those empty positions. We would still probably end up bringing somebody in for subbing in a position we don't have, and would likely need at some point to come to the board for authority to use the reserve account. Just because none of these positions are like, just in case we have a student who needs them, they are positions that are for students that we have with us right now who need that additional support. So we did not identify any open special ed positions for this particular thing. So if that ends up with a total of $207,000 decrease, that gets the overall budget to 4.44%, with Green getting under 6%, 5.59, Leeds gets under 4% to 377, Turner's down to 1.25, with a total overall increase of 3.15. So we tried, with the exception of expansion basketball, we have worked really hard to not eliminate any programs or class activities that directly relate to students. And so that is what we've got for proposal for right now.
I'm trying to decide the appropriate, we can make a motion for what we've seen in front of us, one of the two options or any combination thereof. And then we can, of course, if people would like to discuss adding something else or taking something off. So I'm trying to think the smoothest way to make this work. I guess I'm open for suggestions if anybody wants to make a motion at this point for what we've seen. And then, of course, we can have amendments or something to adjust it forward. So right now, we've set two options presented by the administration, one for 150-something and this one for 207. Do I have any sort of motion for either of these options at this point?
I'll make a motion to move forward with option one.
Okay, option one. We have a
So
second.
that is reduce the budget by 150,000, let me just get the number, 150,317.
Correct.
Do I have a second for option one? I have a second from Jenny. All right, that puts us into more of a discussion. Right now, that's the 153.17. I guess at this point, we can also look to add to it if somebody wants to make an amendment and if they want to add something to that, or if somebody wants to make an amendment and take something off it. But right now, we're dealing with the 153.17. And now we're up for discussion. Anybody wish to discuss the 153.17 or make any amendments or general discussion? Alex?
I would just say I appreciate the work that the administration did to come up with the list. I
I won't plan on supporting anything that eliminates a direct position. So I would prefer, or would be happier this one.
Any other, Anthony?
So we heard from some folks who were surprised that the budget didn't pass. I'm not surprised. I shook a lot of hands last summer when I was campaigning. I talked to an awful lot of people, and a universal comment was our taxes are way too high. The schools, the burden of the schools is killing us. I'm thinking of leaving town. That's something that I heard many times. It's sad. I know that we have an obligation to provide for our schools, and I think that our budget is actually pretty lean, but I do think that there's places that we can cut. It is astounding to me. It is astounding to me that we have a position, we have an unessential position of a school resource officer. It is a luxury. It is an absolute luxury. This person does not teach students. This person does not coach instructors, right? This person is a valuable resource for our district. I am not denying that. But we are at a point where we are being asked by our public, we're being told by our public, they're not asking anymore. They're telling us, tighten your belts. And the best place to do that is you trim out your luxuries. That's what you do in your personal finances. When you can't make ends meet, you say, well, what are the things that I absolutely need? I need food, I need heat, right? I need transportation. I don't need to go to Atlantic City, right? I can cut that away. I don't need to buy books. I can go to the library and get them for the price of my local taxes that go to support my library. So I'm kind of paying for maybe, right? We could save $170,000 plus by eliminating that position. That's more than all of the cuts that we see in option one. And it doesn't affect any of those positions. I think it's fascinating that we heard from two people tonight that instructional coaches are something that we might be looking at. And these are not people who are strangers to the educational system, right? One of them is a current teacher. If I'm not mistaken, one is a retired teacher who is also on the school board. I don't necessarily want to see those positions go, but I also am not certain that we have been shown over the years data that really shows that they're effective. We've had some presentations that are kind of fun. It shows some of the things that they've been working on, but it's not real data. It's not real hard data, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I think if we combine those with our school resource officer, we're looking at closing in on like $750,000 of savings. That's some serious savings. That shows the town, something like that shows the towns, shows our communities that we are responsive to what they said. We are looking to do this in ways that are as least and as least invasive on the direct teaching to students as we can make it, and the direct student experience. I am going to recommend that those are the positions that we cut. So I make a motion that we amend the motion to instead take out the school resource officer. And we can talk about the instructional coaches later, but that will at least get us beyond the level that is in option one without touching a single one of those items.
So the motion, looking for a second, would be to exchange everything in front of us for the resource officer. Is there a second? I'm not seeing a second, so the motion dies without a second. Thank you. All right, anybody else? Yes.
I just offer two things. I just realized there were a couple things I heard that I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on. So the purchase of the land was not in this budget.
Yeah.
So like that $500,000, we can't cut it from the budget. It wasn't in the budget. And you do legally have to have a superintendent. You don't have to have me. You can contract. You can have interim, but like you do by law have to have a superintendent. So I just want to make sure that those facts are clear.
Yep.
Okay.
Understood. Yes, Crystal?
In the email that you had sent us with a little list of things, there was a workers' comp rate reduction for 11,000. Did I just find us $11,000?
So, I left off this list, but it is in there. Yeah.
Okay, it's
That's
part of the
Gabby and I.
150, but it's not on the list.
It is in the 150, so if somebody was doing the math of what I just
All right,
presented
but it's
to
just
you.
not on the.
Yeah.
Okay.
You did not find another $11,000. So-
Gold star for you, though. So yes, after the budget was set, thank you,
Okay.
we received our workman's comp rate, and there was a 0 increase. So we also included in that 150 is a reduction of 11,200 or something.
It
Dang it,
actually, it
Crystal.
wasn't a 0 increase,
Oh.
it was a reduction.
Okay, oh, even better.
That's why you think that.
Yep, so I just left it off the list, and then Gabby and I, as we're trying to make sure that neither of us are making mistakes, clearly making mistakes.
And I
So-
have one other
but you
question.
caught it, so-
Sorry.
Yeah.
Regarding the cuts that are happening at Leeds, I remember, and Gabby, I don't know if you can work this, because I know that some of that comes from facilities, but like Shannon was like one of the only ones that has come under budget, so like just wondering what that takes it even further below.
So these instructional books had already been eliminated in the other elementary schools.
Okay.
That amount, so it's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, just out over there, that's the additional books and periodicals, not all the materials that we get for the reading program that the kids are using, right? So there's two lines. There's supplies, where all the reading materials and math materials live for the 2 programs that we've purchased. And then there's an additional books and periodicals line. And what people have found is that there's enough books and materials in those programs that that additional amount wasn't needed. It was left in Leeds, which we left in Leeds, which is fine, like we didn't feel a need, but then when we went back and looked and realized that the other ones, like Doug, you had eliminated that already, right? And I think it had already been eliminated at TPS and at TPS. So that one, I do think, and the Generation Genius is the same. It's the same software in all those elementary schools. It didn't exist at the TPS because I think it's for older kids.
It's for grade 6.
6th grade, great. They're giving me the signals. And the whiteboards is what I told you. Like, it's entirely possible we're going to have to fix a whiteboard or something that's maybe not working anymore. But that's in facilities. Dave will have to just trade out another project if we realize that they're not going to make another year.
Carrie, just to emphasize, because some of us might, the whiteboards we're talking about are not traditional whiteboards.
No, they're just regular whiteboards, right? Yeah, they're just regular marker whiteboards. We're not talking about fancy technology. We're talking about like markers on the wall. Just whiteboards. They're $2,200.
I'm going to go on my radio. I'm going to go
What?
on my walkie-talkie spiel here then.
You don't have one.
8,000,
Whiteboards.
I might as well move on.
I don't know if it's-
It's been cut, so we'll move on, but I
We
think
don't
we
make
need,
stuff, we don't sell it.
Well, we might
have
cut
to
it.
buy So is that, Crystal, is that?
That's it.
Thank you. Okay, you're on top of that. Good job.
anybody else? Yes, Ashley.
What the revised budget look like with a decrease of 200, look like?
This is on this side. So it's, let me just, I think Leeds is the one that gets under 4%. I think in that first one, Green. Green gets.
First one is here.
Yeah, so Green gets under 6% in option 1, Leeds is at 4.11. In option 2, Green is still under 6%, it's like 5.59, and Leeds gets under 4%. So that's the difference.
Turner goes down as well.
Yeah, I mean, Turner goes down as well with their numbers.
Is there any way to, off the top of your head, what the decrease would be to under 5?
Under,
I mean,
Green under 5?
3 under 5.
Yeah, Gabby can do some modeling. I guess this is pretty significant.
70,000 off the top,
Ooh.
I guess.
Okay, see.
While they're doing the math over there, anybody else have any other?
I think Ashley was.
Yeah, I was just, okay.
Jamie, can you tell us again, what is the total currently in the unallocated fund balance?
Let's just finish this modeling.
$100,000, an additional $100,000 to get green under 5%. The unallocated fund balance, so the projection amount in excess of 9% beyond the 9% that we're allowed to have would be $357,573. That is after the transfer into reserve funds and the original $600,000 carryover. So if we put an additional $50,000 into the carryover, that would leave us with $307,573.
And that's just for this fiscal year. What's the total balance?
That is the total balance after the 9% that we are allowed
So
to
what's
have.
the
for
9%? That's what's the 9%. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's this year's budget?
So we can't use this year's budget because it hasn't finished and we haven't had it audited. They look at the last audited budget. Yeah, okay.
So that's not that's the cumulative balance.
So
Above 9%, what's the 9%?
So before we take into account any of the reserve funds, any carryover, anything, right now, there would be $4.9 million.
And the 9% is of that total.
9% is 3.1 million that we are allowed to have.
So what's the 357?
That's after the 9%. So you subtract out the 9%. Then there's going to be 600,000 for carry forward. And then there's 800,000 to put in reserve funds. There was 500 for the land. There's technology reserve funds of 47,492. And then facilities capital repair is 252,508. That leaves you with the 357,000. And then we propose to move another 500 forward.
No, 50,000.
Sorry,
So we get 650.
I warned Alex.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It started early and it keeps going.
What does moving that 100 do with this budget?
Are you saying on top of the 50? Okay. And are you saying without budget reduction of the 100,000? So it's going to be.
No, so let's say option 1 with 50 passes. If we took an extra 100 and carried it forward, what does that do for you guys long-term planning? Did you plan on some of that carried forward?
Right. So
It's our long-term planning, not mine, right? So I just always like to be clear, like, I'm gonna do what you guys want us to do. So I think, I'll let Gabby talk about the numbers, but I think it's just, I know that I am cautioned regularly by surrounding superintendents whose districts have basically drained their fund balance to keep their budgets going. That it becomes a cycle of like, you need $1 million. So like they transfer $1 million and that's how it gets used. So that doesn't mean we can't do it, but that's just the concern is how much we use that then reduces our ability to respond to all the other issues that we have. So that's all I'll say about that.
So that would reduce us to, what did I say, $200,000 beyond the 9%. The way that we're projecting this year, we're going to be under budget, so we will be able to fund the carry forward for next year, fiscal year 28 as well. We still will be okay, as long as no major calamities happen. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but there's always that possibility. And that would bring the total budget down to a 4.59, and for the towns, the total would be, or the average would be 2.89.
And a couple budget meetings ago, you mentioned it would be 1.6 was projected to be remaining. Is that still?
I have not had an opportunity to do a new projection.
But at the time, it was proposed, really.
I believe it was.
1.6 is low though for what we've had for what's been remaining. When we did that 5-year budget thing, wasn't it right typically around 4%?
Yeah, I think
when we did that. So 1.6 would be low.
But that was what I projected at that meeting, yes. Correctly.
Bree, did you have something?
We also heard from several people who gave public comment tonight as well that Many people did not know about our voting day. I saw on several social media pages for multiple towns, people commenting, several dozen other people, it's not just the two who spoke tonight, but thank you for sharing. You represent the others who spoke out online and couldn't be here tonight, that they were like, what? It's voting day? I had no idea. And our voting times being limited to just the evening doesn't allow for folks who work later, who would prefer some morning times. And I also want to point out that the budget failed by 12 votes. We had about 600 people out of a total of the 3 towns of over 5,000 citizens, only about 600 people voted, and it only failed by 12. That, to me, is not a significant enough number to be able to say that the majority of the townspeople are unhappy with the budget and don't like it, and no. We only had a drop in the bucket of citizens from this community to actually get their voices heard, and it only lost by 12 people, 12 votes total. So I will not support this motion because I don't think that that's the problem. The problem is not the budget that we put forth. I truly believe that the problem was we did not see a good turnout. We did not advertise very well. I'm not done. So I also want to say, we have a policy as school board members. It's policy BCA, and it's our ethics policy. And it states in item C, I remember at all times that as an individual I have no legal authority outside the meetings of the board, and that I will conduct my relationship with the school staff, the local citizenry, and all media of communications on the basis of this fact. Item G states, once a decision has been made by the majority of the board, we voted on this budget 8 to 1. I will abide by that decision. If I seek a change in the board's position, I will do so openly and in accordance with parliamentary procedure, meaning at a school board meeting. However, there was a school board member who took that media of communication to social media and encouraged his entire city, town, to vote down the school budget, which the entire board, the majority of, and we have signed and said in our ethics, and you wouldn't have ethics for nothing, that we will follow these ethical procedures and that we cannot speak out. If we don't agree with something that the school board, that the majority has voted on, we can't take that and encourage everyone in our towns to go against what the school board has put forth. If you disagree with that, you need to bring it to the board and not air that out as a representative of the school board. So I just want to put that out there as well, that we have some things to consider amongst ourselves, and I don't think that reducing anything is what we need to be doing tonight.
Thank you. I'm just going to elaborate one thing. I did hear numerous people mention tonight, and every year, and at almost every election, what do you mean? There's a vote. We can only do so much. And people talked, honestly, 600 isn't a bad turnout, and that's pathetic. But I remember school elections, and let me show my age, where 30 or 40 people voted if there wasn't much going on. So unless there is a major political event, unfortunately, that's numbers we're honestly looking at, and that's how we deal with it. So it's kind of, it's unfortunate. We send it out, this information, it was out there just as soon as we could, and it's been out there for a couple months. You know, the dates, nothing changed. It was all out there. I do believe that the high school had it on the thing. You know, it popped up everywhere. And it's just, we can't hold people's hands and bring them to the thing. We'll let people know it's out there, but, you know, we can only do so much. We're not going to put out TV ads. I personally feel we have to be very careful that as a school board, we represent the whole community, the town. So we just can't do anything that focuses only at parents or only at that. If we do anything, it has to go into the whole community, so we have to be careful. So we do hear you, but if you have a thought, let us know in the future. But I think we did do as good a job as we've ever done and try to do. I just do have to say one thing to what Bree just said. Yes, we are members of a board. We have to act on the board's vote. We have to stand by the board's vote. But I will have to say that I do disagree, just like in any legislature or anything like that. If we disagree with it, we have the right to disagree with it. We have the right to say we disagree with it and say it publicly. I've often voted against this board's budget as chair, and that's fine. But that is our right as people. I can't dictate or anything like that, but I think that's, that's something we can talk about. But, every legislature, every group, you still have the right to speak your mind. You can't make changes, but you have the right to speak your mind. Anthony, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, I did want to address something that had just been said, that there were so few people that turned out to vote that we can't really accept that. We can't accept that vote of the people using an official democratic process to say, no, we reject this vote. What I'm hearing is somebody who says, you voted the wrong way, people, so I am not going to pay attention to you. If the vote had gone the other way, we would not be having this conversation. The budget would have passed. We would have been absolutely happy if there had been only 50 people who voted and they passed the budget. That it is a reprehensible comment. Absolutely. Since I'm the person that the speaker was discussing, I was not trying to overturn a board vote. What I was trying to do was encourage people to vote. And I was explaining why I voted against the budget. That is absolutely within my purview as an elected official to explain why I've done something. What are my reasons for doing something? There's an awful lot of people who turned out to vote in my town because I reminded them to vote. I think that my town would appreciate something lower than a 6.87% increase. I think that they're expecting something substantially lower. I think that they would like to see real cuts made. I would like, you people have I've brought up the school resource officer twice, I've not been able to get a second. I would like to hear from some of you what some real cuts are, that we can get this up above $200,000 in cuts.
Great.
So I agree with you, Peter, that if we disagree with something on the board and we vote against it, we are allowed to share that with the folks in our towns, but I'm pretty sure that we are not to be the spokesperson for the board. That's your role. So when it comes to being on public platforms, that's a media platform, that we are not allowed to do that. That's my interpretation of our board policies. So that's what I was referencing to, not just can I sit on my porch with my next door neighbor and tell them that I voted down. That's, you absolutely can. We all are free to have our opinions, but we are not allowed to be a representative of the board and discouraging people to go against what the board agreed on in that public manner.
Ashley, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I'm going to propose an amendment to the original motion that involves moving some additional funds to be allocated fund balance. And I brought this forward probably since I came on the board. So it's been a concern of mine, 2 budgets now, the amount of money that's being carried over. And I understand the need to be cognizant to make sure we're not in a situation that we don't have reserves. But I think where consistently the district is coming in pretty high in excess of that 9%. So far, there hasn't been a year where it's not. that doesn't seem to be happening. And that we have the opportunity to return some of those funds to taxpayers. And I would like to see that be looked at yearly and assessed on what the budget looks like for the year, rather than just having we just do the same number every year, but look at what are we gonna be over budgeted for this year? 4%, maybe it's 7%. And how much can we afford to give back to taxpayers while still maintaining our reserves? I think is a healthy number. And I think there's opportunity there to bring this down, but also to return some of that in general without necessarily having, even the budget didn't fail, I would have supported this. So I make a motion to add an additional 100, bring the total from 50,000 to 150,000, carry over from that.
So your motion would then be with the current decrease of 153.17, which is on the board, which is on thing, you're making an amendment to increase the, whatever, I'll let Gabby to the official words, but from 50 to 150.
Yeah, second.
We have a second from Jenny. We now have a motion, we now have an amendment. So the discussion is now around the amendment.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear. So the total amount, I think you said this, but I'm just repeating it. The total amount we would add, so currently we're carrying over 600,000. This total amount would take it to 750. Is that right? Okay.
I'll just speak real quick on this one. I've always been very hesitant about this because in many regards, this is the easy thing to do, but it often can really hurt us in the long run. This is, for lack of a better term, an easy way for me to understand it. It's kind of like our rainy day fund, our emergency. This is what happens, for example, if the budget doesn't pass or something, we have trouble getting money from the towns. This is what keeps us afloat. If I remember using it one year when the state decided they didn't have enough money and they curtailed us one year, the amount of money they were going to give us, and said, okay, everybody, here's, I can't remember the number, but I'm going to say $500,000 less than you expected. This is what we dipped into. So there's a reason for its existence. It's just not something we keep along. So I think it's just easy for us to say, oh, there's a pile, we don't need it this year, it's fine, everything's good, let's cut it and let's bring it down. And I think, yeah, we can do it, but I think in 5 or 6 years, we might go, oh, what did we do? Because it's awfully hard to put it back every year, because I don't foresee any years moving forward. We have a bunch of extra money we want to put in there. So that's my concern. Once you start knocking it down, it's very hard to bring it back. And I'm very nervous about that. I want to apologize. I think Joe, but did somebody raise it? Yeah, was it Al? Okay. My mind is losing, so Joe first. Thank you.
Sure. I had very similar thoughts in my mind as Peter just now, that this, I think, can help solve the problem today, but maybe something, I'm concerned it may be something we regret later. I have not been in finance, and it's clear that Ashley's been studying that issue harder than I have, but my first reaction was very, very similar to what Peter just felt, that it would be something that, why dip into the rainy day fund for this? If people want meaningful cuts, I'm not so sure it's just dipping into the rainy day fund that people want to see, and I'm worried we'd regret that later. First reaction.
Alex, did you?
So Ashley's amendment would include option 1 cuts.
It would be a 250,000
Right.
basically, give or take, and some change.
I've done the math 1,000 times. Those numbers aren't a difference of 150,000.
Yeah, so
11,000.
11,000, the amount that made up
But
the
I think
workers' compensation.
it's still not, I don't know, it doesn't, it's just over 100,000 right now.
So,
I'll just go straight to the revenue sheet, because that's the one that.
what numbers, I'm sorry, what numbers?
What failed with the proposed
Total budget to total budget.
Oh, you're talking the decrease?
Oh, did I get, so I may have made an error on that, so.
I just wanted to make it.
So,
That's
Alex, you're talking
100,000.
about the
Oh,
39.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, 39,
Okay.
91,
That's-
39.
Because
they weren't
$50,000 is coming from carry forward.
Okay, so it's later.
So that's what the additional 50 is.
Yep.
So the percentage is how much is what we need from the local. So So, yeah, thank you. Whew. I was like, how did I mess that up? That's why, because revenue is what impacts this.
You're absolutely right. That's showing about $100,000 difference, and then we're carrying forward additional.
Yeah, clear.
It decreases so that's my error in calling that a decrease. It just changes the budget, right, line budget.
Right now, we're on a amendment, folks. Any further discussion on the amendment of adding an extra $100,000 to the carryover? Alex?
I guess I would ask administration's opinion of it.
Yeah, so I think that that's a great easy fix. I do. I don't disagree with Ashley. Carrie and I have thrown it around. My concern is that there's this cliff that you're walking up to, and eventually we're not going to be able to carry forward $750,000 each year. And then we'll reduce that to what we can carry forward to still have that 9% in the background. I don't think that we should go below that 9% because that does allow, like Peter was saying, if the state suddenly can't produce their $1.5 million monthly payment to the school district to support what the EPS allocation says that we should get, that allows us to cover our payroll, our monthly health insurance bill, a multitude of expenses that come through each month. I think that $750,000 for right now is just fine. We'll have to see where we are at the end of fiscal year 26 after it's audited to what that fund balance is again.
And I'll just add, I don't disagree, Ashley, that we should look at it each year and look, because that's we started that conversation this year, right? That we should be looking at what that amount is. So I do think we should probably have more of that conversation when we start budget season about how much we should be using, and it should be relative to what we have. I think the worry would be is if it fluctuates a lot each year, then we just end up with different problems each year. It just becomes a little less predictable about what we're carrying over. If we have to lower it one year, it goes up another year. There's enough unpredictability with the state subsidy, right? Where we don't know, and then there's this unpredictability with insurance. So there's two things that are sort of unpredictable every year. So I worry if we add one more thing that's potentially unpredictable, that it just complicates developing those budgets, more complicated than it already is. But
Any further discussion on the amendment? Yes.
I'll just say that, I would rather see actual cuts, because actual cuts are things that aren't going to come back and bite us later, right? But I will say that I have heard from constituents who look at the surplus and they wonder why it's not coming back to them. So, I will support this because it will provide some relief. Personally, I think it's kicking the can down the road, but it's better than nothing for the tax relief that we have been told people want, despite the fact that some people don't think that there's enough people telling.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? All right. All those in favor of the amendment? Are we all familiar with what the amendment is? It's an extra, this is the amendment only, an extra $100,000 to the fund balance.
from the fund balance.
From the fund balance to the thing. All those in favor? You got that?
And Alex,
Can everybody keep their hands up, please? Thank you.
So Alex, Kyle, Jenny, Ashley, Anthony, right? I have that.
All those opposed? The balance. The other four. All right, so that takes us to our current motion on the floor is for $250,317 decrease and other stuff to make a decrease. Because you don't do the math, you see it up there.
So can I recommend that we update the revenue sheet so that we can then look at it and see the actual numbers, so we have a different number? So let me just pull that up just so we can look at it.
See the numbers.
So Peter, were you telling me, you were telling me something?
Oh, I just said it's the other four.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, what?
As you were looking at it.
So it's 5.
So I know this is small, so I'll just point it out. So carryover in the original budget was 600, the original budget was 600. So the carryover now is 750,000 there. So what that looks like is a budget that's up 4.5% 4.59%. The change, however, is what you see here for the town. So Green, the percent change is down to 5.32. In Leeds, it's down to 3.5, and in Turner, it's down to 1%, for average is 2.8.
Can you say that one more time, Shannon?
Yep.
I need to move closer to you.
I know, right? So the overall budget is still at 4.59. The cuts we've made are about $100,000. And then the change to the towns is where we see that change by pulling over more carryover. So Green is at a 5.32% increase. Leeds is at a 3.5% increase. And Turner's at a 1% increase. So 5.32, 3.5, and 1.
The other number that I want to point out that's actually affected is the local additional. So that's why the decrease, you're seeing the decrease in the percentages because the local additional is what's shifting. That number is going down. That's where you're seeing that $150,000 decrease now.
Everybody understand that? All right.
And those are shifting down from what numbers?
From the
original
initial,
39
what was
million?
The original budget, just go back to the beginning, was a 4.86% increase, and Green was at 6.87, Leeds was at 5.83, Turner was at 2.48.
Thank you.
Anthony, that is actually in the revenue sheet that you find.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Ashley?
I thought when I said, what to get between under 5%, I thought you said an additional 100.
On top of the 200.
Yeah, so it'd be 300,000 total.
Yeah.
Because you were looking at the 200,000, we were looking at the $200,000 option at that point. Oh, yes, William.
So I would prefer not to us to cut any budget since school has been tight, but I haven't seen any benefit from the coaches. I don't know so making it mandatory, as one of the members of our staff has said, maybe cutting a couple of them, like, because they're important for some teachers, but I don't think it's everyone needs it.
They are definitely on the discussion every year, so I'm not sure if we can, if I see anybody with interest, we'll move forward with it, but but I thank you very much. It was a good thought. Anything else? Yes.
So I just want to say it out loud. Go back to the top of the question I had asked, basically.
Yep.
I know there was some discrepancy on it. It could be a slightly lower because food service was included in the number.
Yep.
But roughly 1.5-ish million of the proposed increase of 1.9 million was salaries and insurance, things out of our control. Granted, there's an argument that salaries are too high or there's too many salaries. But I think, like I said, our administrators do a good job of not having a lot of fat in the budget. 77% of the increase was, quote unquote, out of our control. So I just want to say it out there that, 23% of the proposed increase was new spending, discretionary in theory. That's all.
All right, not seeing any. We're currently moving forward. Yes, Anthony.
Could I, two instructional coaches would be roughly 150, 180?
Probably about $188,000 to $190,000, roughly.
All right, so at this point, we're going to be voting on the 250,000 and change. I don't know exactly what it is anymore. I sure as hell can't see that. $250,000 deduction.
So let me just read, because we're going to have a new budget number that has reductions and then a change in local assessment. So can I read them out loud?
Absolutely, go for it. Yep, yep. This is what we're going to vote on.
You're actually going to vote on a budget that's $39,081,133 because we have increased the carryover to $750,000 and we have eliminated about $100,000 in spending. So the new budget number that you're now voting on is $39,081,133. Does that make sense?
Sure. Gabby, is that good? Okay, I'm all set then. All right, all those in,
Can I just say one thing?
no,
Please?
okay.
I just want to say, I really want everybody to understand, this is like our fifth edition of this, where we have gone through cuts, where we have asked for you guys to trim it back. This is not the first time that we have sat here having this conversation. We started with an increase of 6.13%, and I can't see that from your
4.59.
And so now we're down to 2 point something for the 3 towns.
That's the average increase to the town.
We started at 7.39 in January, February, when we first started this process. So there's been a lot of things that have come out of the budget. And I just want to, thank you for that. Like, we do hear what constituents are saying. It's not falling on deaf ears. Okay, now I'm done, thank you.
All right. All those in favor of this proposed budget, raise your hand. All those opposed? Oh, sorry.
These are people in favor of?
In favor.
Okay, thank you.
So it's in favor, these are in favor of the cut and transfer, the cut transfer.
Thank you.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
All right. We now have a budget that we are bringing forward. So at this point, I have to be a little bit, we have some certain things we have to do. Now we have some official type motions. I'm not sure if any of these are part of All right, so we did this,
We don't need to, we can skip 5.1.
so we just adopted it, correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We don't need 5.13.
Now we need to call the,
Call and approve the warrants. Just the general. So, let me just check with Gabby. Yes.
In terms of the other stuff, I'm sure that those share. Let me.
I don't like to vote.
No, I think that this is the motion that you need to make. You need to read that. I think.
do I need to have any certain numbers or anything on it? Or just?
No, because you're voting to call and approve the warrants, and then we're going to sign the warrants. But this is the legal, you guys approved a budget number. Now you need
But I don't need the number here.
Correct.
All right.
Now that passes.
All right. We're moving forward, folks. All right. Apparently, this is the next step. I move to the vote entitled, "Vote to call and approve the warrants for the budget meeting and the budget validation referendum, and to authorize the notice of amounts adopted be approved in form presented to this meeting, and that a copy of said vote be included with the minutes of this meeting." That is a motion. Do I have a second? We have a second by, I believe it's over there, Crystal. All those in favor? And if I'm not mistaken, this just sends it to the towns, right?
Yes.
So this is the next step that sends it to the towns. All right, what do I have to do next?
Now we have to actually take a minute to sign the warrants.
All
So
right.
this is where everybody doesn't move. You got to sign them in the exact same place, do all that.
We're going to be about 5-10 minutes here, folks, so if you want to take a chance to take a break or escape, it's up to you. All right, folks, welcome back. We are now going to our regular scheduled programming, which is communications. Apparently I have none, but the superintendent has some.
I do. Following resignations: James Sequeira, bus driver, transportation. Louise Groover, who is a special ed tech 3 at the middle school at the end of the year. Roger Brenner, you'll remember Roger's came back. Roger's going again. He's bus driver. And Maureen McDonald, the school counselor at Turner Primary School at the end of the year. Sabrina Willette, a kindergarten teacher at Green Central School at the end of the year. And Paige Hussey, elementary, I don't remember what grade level. Fourth grade at Green Central School at the end of the year. 2 new hires to report. Jenny Meisner, food service assistant at Tripp Middle School. And we have incredible new adult ed director, Adam Sikora. He will come to the June 11th meeting.
Okay.
When he and I met, I thought tonight was just gonna be a little long, and I said, you can come on June 11th, although that was gonna be long too, so. But he is currently adult ed director in SAD 49, which is Lawrence High School, Fairfield area. But he lives in Litchfield, so he's coming down this way, so very excited to hire somebody with experience. And the one transfer, Felicia Sabine, who is at EdTech 3, Title I EdTech 3 at Leeds Central School, is going to be moving to the middle school in the office support assistant position starting for next school year.
Thank you very much. That takes us to committee reports. Finance Committee, Ashley.
Oh, no.
Oh,
No, we skipped agenda adjustments. We got some.
Oh, adjustments to the agenda. My apologies. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I always get excited.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ashley. All right, we do have a couple we're
Yeah.
taking off.
So 10.1 and 10.2, graduation, the graduation requirements. So the policy committee did meet and did review those. We had some communication today that really I want to now go back with Eben and Teresa and look at that policy one more time before it is finalized. A question got raised today through some of our communications with a current student that makes me want to pause and bring it back at the next meeting. And so that one's pulled. And then the second one is 11.2. So our attorney for the Maine Human Rights Commission lawsuit has changed law firms. So we need a new engagement letter and fee schedule, and I was hopeful to have that documentation for today. I didn't. I've been communicating with the attorney the whole time. He's with a new law firm, so there's just been, it's just taken a little bit longer. So that will appear on the June 11th meeting. So those two things are removed.
Those two are adjustments. All stuff that happened this afternoon.
Yes.
So, but 10 point, the graduation will be coming before the end of the school year, so that will be at the next meeting on the 11th.
So more communication to come.
Yes. All right, so then that takes us back to committee reports. Ashley, Finance Committee.
We did meet over quite a bit. The first thing we discussed was the reserve fund used for wastewater treatment plant. So we did approve up to $400,000 from reserve funds to be used for this. Not all of it has been spent. There are some invoices out there that are still being reviewed. Gabby's estimating about up to $290,000. So at the next meeting, we just want to vote to allow admin to pull from those funds over the summer without us needing to review individual invoices. Up to the originally 400, up to the originally 400,000. So that'll be coming at the next meeting. Then we discussed the reserve fund used for TPS well expenses. So as of now, $8,700 has been spent on engineering to repair that. They did go up to bid, only got one bid back because it's a short time around. They wanted to have this done over the summer. Some contractors weren't willing to bid because they weren't able to meet that timeline. The one they got back seemed high. So they spoke with Dave. The temporary holding tank right now is still going to be good for another year, which will buy them some time to go out to bid and give more time to come through. So that's the plan on that, but we do want to approve the reserve funds to be used for that engineer bill, $8,700 at the next meeting. We discussed electricity rates again. Gabby has been looking at these a lot. And they're going up. They've gone up since the last time we discussed it at the committee in February. There's a, what is it, adult?
Are you talking about DASI?
Yeah, DASI, okay. Yeah.
Ancillary something or other.
Yeah, so there's a small percentage rate that's tacked on to the fee that may be changing and may potentially be lowering. So what we want to do is we want to vote to give Gabby approval to go under contract up to 12.38 cents per kilowatt hour, which is what she quoted at today. and anticipating, hoping that comes down, but at least if we give her the ability to go up to that high over the summer, and she makes a lot of things without needing a special board meeting. And we're voting on, we need to vote on that before we vote.
Yeah, that would go with consent agenda, and then there was one other that was for tonight, that's the high school sprinklers.
Yeah. Next, we discussed the mower purchase. So this was already approved in the reserve funds on the list. There are 2 mowers, as the 2 for the district are not good for use anymore. So we are going to vote tonight, so that way Dave can go ahead and make the purchase orders for the summer. 2 mowers for the price of $33,163,000. And that is on the consent agenda for this evening. We also are going to review and approve a bid for the high school sprinkler repair. So at this point, they want to move forward with a $5,000 inspection from a company that's going to come in for that fee to inspect all the pipes and look and see what repairs are necessary versus another company that they got a bid for just a full fee to do the entire repair system. So this company, High Tech, wants to come in and do the inspection and then determine where the repairs are needed and what the price could be. So we want to vote to approve up to $35,000 and give them some leeway to pull from reserve funds for that without needing a special board meeting in December. And that will be approved this evening on the consent agenda. And then we reviewed the architect firm proposal for the field assessment. So this is just dollars being spent for the current fields that we have, not the fields that were going to be on the field lot that did not get purchased. So that is about $19,000 in architectural fees just for the fields. And what they're going to do there is assess everything and then provide recommendations back for the report. And then we approved a paper bid, not as exciting as WB Mason.
All right, just a couple questions I have. Does anybody have any? When it comes to the fields, my only concern there, and I'm talking to the architectural, is I still have hopes that we're going to purchase the land in a time frame at some point. The district, in my opinion, needs it. Financially, it will help us in many regards, and it's a one-time option. We'll never have the opportunity again. So I really hope that we get our act together and can get the towns to purchase it. That being said, if we spend a bunch of money with the architects on our existing fields, if we end up purchasing the new fields over the summer or some point when we're going, whenever we have the next bring forward, is that going to mess up their determination? Like if say, oh, hey, now take this into account too. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so some of what they need, we've asked them to do, which is stuff like PTB for 3 years now has been, when Joe was still way back, sort of looking at just what do we have and what shape is it in, and what are some options for repair. So it's just what we're purchasing is their assessment and their recommendation of options. So it's that amount of money. And then should we ever be in the position where that land is owned, then they would do the same thing there. But we still need to have some options to review to decide what, if anything, the board wants to do with the current fields that we have. So that's what it is.
Okay.
And we were going to do that regardless of the land. I mean, that's been on the list.
I know it's been on the list and everything,
yeah.
but I'm just curious, if that 18 acres or whatever it is, would all of a sudden change their interpretation of what to do in some of these fields. And that just kind of might be money we throw into the bridge or something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, there's no doubt we have a deficit with our current fields.
Yes.
And that we're going to have to invest in them in some way. And, I'd imagine they're going to effectively quantify that with the current assessment. And it may be, I don't think it's going to be wasted necessarily.
Oh, no, I didn't.
And because if we do get an opportunity to purchase more land, it might eliminate that cost and we'll have it more quantified when we get to it. So, anyhow.
My other question, if everybody was all set with that question. On the purchase of 2 mowers, I always, and I might have overlooked this and in a discussion of the board or something I might have missed or something. I always have concern when we're purchasing something of this level out of budget. Because this is something we're, you know, the capital repair reserve fund to me is not necessarily for purchasing 2 new mowers. It's for if something breaks out of the blue. If all of a sudden a truck that we expected to last for 4 more years is done, not for replacing a couple mowers. To me, I had the same issue when we did the snow removal item. Not that I was against the snow removal for the buses. It's just, it was out of the normal routine, so it didn't get the same treatment that any other purchase got in the district. You know, for example, it didn't get put up against desks in a school. It didn't get put up against that kind of stuff. It was just, it's getting its own separate thing, and I'm not always sure that that is the way we should do business. So I have especially with 2 of them, especially with 2 of them, it's not like one all of a sudden died on us. It seems like we were planning to purchase them, but we decided to do it out of reserves, and to me, reserves, I don't know, especially for mowers, but anyways.
So during budget process, we did provide the list of items that we were moving to reserve, and these 2 mowers were on that list. It's the reason why the facilities budget is down 0.5%, because we identified a list of projects and purchases that needed to happen and move them out. And identified. So this was on that list. So it's not like the snow thing, which I know is something you'll take to your grave.
We just all of a sudden.
But it is no. This was on the list that we presented back when we originally did the budget to reduce the budget.
Okay. That's all I had for a diatribe. Thank you. I remember a lot of that will be on the consent agenda, so if you have questions. But anyways, okay. That takes us to PTB. Alex.
We didn't meet tonight. Our June 11th meeting was canceled for the budget issue. We haven't scheduled one, but we may schedule a special meeting just because we haven't had one in a while. So. We like meeting at 7.
Just guys. All right, thank you, Alex. Crystal, policy.
Yes, we had a special meeting last week, and that was regarding graduation requirements, which we are going to hold off on. So, cool.
Nothing personal. No, it's still good work. It's still needed.
No, it's good, and I'm anxious to hear what you guys learned today.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
And then I think that's it. Everything else is a second reading and approval for wellness and records retention and food sales, which we've already gone through, and that's it.
Thank you very much. That takes us to Bree, curriculum.
So you will see under new business tonight 2 items that we will be considering for approval for a recommendation coming out of the curriculum committee. First is the English language arts pre-K through 12th grade standards, and the second one are the science pre-K to 12th grade standards. And like the other previously scheduled meetings for June 11th, our curriculum committee meeting is also going to cancel that meeting due to budget things.
Budget things, exactly. All right, thank you very much, Bree. Any questions for Bree? All right. That takes us to Crystal again.
Yes, negotiations, we will be meeting for mediation on June 4th together. The gang will be back together. And that's all I know about that.
All right.
And I'm cooking again.
And Crystal's going to feed us, but only us.
Okay.
Only you guys.
All right. You guys need to stop talking about food unless you bring it for the rest of the board. Enough's enough of this.
I think she's going to cook some really good food. Just
Say,
for
look
us.
at you. I know. Well, that's me. I'm sorry. Snacks. Kyle,
Kyle gets the glory. You do all the work, and Kyle
I was
gets
planting
the glory.
blueberries and I got carried away. All right. Well, thank you very much. And as you all noticed, we deleted the executive session because there's really no news there.
Oh yeah, that was
So, that takes us to student representative William.
Seniors have their first 4 finals tomorrow.
Speak up just a tiny bit.
Okay. Seniors have their first 4 finals tomorrow. They're white day classes. They're having their finals. Next week is finals for everyone, starting Tuesday. Graduation's next Sunday on the 7th. Everyone's excited for High Week coming up in 3 weeks. Sophomores are just like most of them will have know that if they're going to be in LRTC next year.
Oh, yeah.
And 8th grade is coming up to be their HPT on Thursday.
Awesome.
That day.
Great.
Thank you very much. And I assume we're not all excited for the end of the school year. All right, that takes us to administrator reports. Because of the time frame tonight, folks, the fine administrators, I'm just going to ask that you are here to answer questions if we have any. So first of all, does anybody have any questions for our Principal Parker from Green? Yes, Anthony.
I saw that we're doing some assessment of the instructional coaches. Could you tell me why we're using that particular assessment tool?
Could you be specific on what you're referring to?
Yeah, so hold on, I gotta get to which agenda item is that?
7.1.
Oh, you're talking about results-based coaching tool?
Yes.
That's not an assessment. I'll let Doug answer, but it's not.
All right.
Yeah, it's basically, and Dr. Gillis, if you want to hop in as well, that is the model that the instructional coaches have adopted as far as looking at positive impact on students, and that is the framework that they use.
So it's a protocol,
Yeah.
so that the coaching cycle is based on positive improvement for students. So they start the coaching cycle with a pre-assessment, they go through the coaching cycle, and then there's a post-assessment to determine if there was growth based on the work that the teacher did with the coaching from the coach. So it's a protocol, it's not an assessment. Yeah, because we don't necessarily want coaches and teachers just talking, right? We want to see that interaction have a positive impact on student learning. So that protocol is what they use to ensure that the work they're doing is looking at student learning and looking at their assessment to determine that there's improvement as a result of that coaching cycle.
So isn't that assessment of the instructional coach's effectiveness?
I think we can start arguing, but it's.
I
don't think that's how it's seen. It's not how it's used.
That's how I see it.
Okay.
I mean, it seems like that's what we're doing. We're seeing, does the work of the instructional coach with the teacher have a positive impact on the student?
Correct.
That seems to be an assessment.
Okay.
My question then is why are we using an assessment tool that is designed by the person who is invested in showing that instructional coaches are effective?
It's not designed by them.
It's not designed by them.
Where did it come from?
It's not designed by the...
It's a protocol that is used with student-centered coaching, which is the model our district uses, based on the work of Diane Sweeney and her consultants.
And is Diane Sweeney not involved in instructional coaches?
She is involved in instructional coaches, but the instructional coaches did not design.
I'm not saying the instructional coaches designed it. I'm saying that the author of this tool is someone who promotes instructional coaches, yes? So what I'm after is how does this district, and I talked about this earlier during our budget meeting, how does this district actually show as objectively as possible that the instructional coaches are actually providing some real value? And we've heard that perhaps they're not as valuable as we might have been led to believe. So I'm just putting out there that it seems to me that I would like to see some kind of very objective, disinterested way of assessing their work, giving us, this board, some data so that then we can look at that. Because tonight I wasn't particularly comfortable in saying let's cut these positions. I've heard from principals that they're valuable. I've heard from some teachers that they're valuable, but I've also heard from some teachers that they don't want them. So I really want some hard data that really assesses how effective they are. But I don't want that data coming from somebody who's written a book about why instructional coaches are great or something like that, right? So I'm not certain what those tools might be. I'd be happy to help with some research if that's necessary, but it seems to me like that's the kind of information that we need to be able to really look at whether all that money that we're spending is really all that valuable. Particularly when this artificial intelligence service that we have decided to set aside some money for has a virtual instructional coach who's available 24/7 to our instructional staff. So it seems like this could really be a way where we can say, well, maybe it's not quite the same as a real person, but the availability, like the fact that they can work with every single teacher in the district on any single day that those teachers want to, they don't have to wait for an appointment, they're in every school, right? It could be a really interesting way to look at saving a fair bit of cash and providing some continuing relief to our taxpayers.
I think you're all set, but thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, you have a question for?
Yes. Thank you for waiting. I appreciate your academic highlight and highlighting the second grade students in their book. I'm wondering if you have more you'd like to elaborate on for where they're at in that process of publishing their book?
So here's what I can tell you a little bit. I happen to be in the classrooms over various periods of time, and I was in when the kids were initially writing their story, and it was the teacher provided a writing prompt. And in that particular case, I believe there was one of them, it was something like that, the kids came into the room, the teacher wasn't there, but there was a strange doorway that suddenly it appeared in the back of the room. And then each kiddo described what they saw from there. Very, very elaborate, incredibly creative. And the teacher did, of course, give some parameters, not much as far as because she wanted to really highlight that creativity. And then they gathered all of those. And I was there for the kind of the dress rehearsal when the books were put together, and they went up in front of the class and read their particular segment. Sometimes, we had to have an adult there because anybody that recalls the first time getting up in front of a large group, it's quite nerve-wracking. The kids were amazing, and then the story just kind of wrapped around it. She was in the room the whole time, but throughout that, there were, oh my gosh, there were unicorns and mermaids and just cloud people, and just, it was really amazing. Yeah, and the kids really were able to shine with their creativity and really kind of gain some good skills. They were really proud of their work, as they should be.
Yes, but what he's not saying is that particular class has been nominated. I don't want to steal your thunder. Has been nominated for a national award competition to have that story submitted at the national level to see if they can be national authors in a way too. So we're super proud of the second graders at Green Central.
Well, thank you and congratulations.
Well, I will relay that. I did none of the writing.
Thank you very much. We're going to skip over Principal Gammon. If you have questions on her report, please forward it to us when you get a chance. The Principal Shaw. Any questions for Principal Shaw from his report? Yes.
Any interesting topic that is supposed to?
We had
We
had lots of interesting topics at the symposium. They ranged from, and I'm not going to get them all because there were like 100 of them, and I was fortunate enough to speak to like 97 of them, so I didn't get to all of them, I got to most of them. They ranged from students who were investigating how they could save money by preparing their own food instead of going out to eat, so they went grocery shopping, and how many meals they could prep up. And I talked to one student who that was her project, and she talked about what we always find out. We get sick of eating the same thing after the third day. But it is way cheaper than going to buy it. We had one student who, his project was on trying to figure out some correlation between his fishing lure and like what was causing fish to bite it, and his title was "What's Beyond the Lure?" So I walked up to him and I said, "So sir, what's beyond the lure?" "Mr. Shaw, there's nothing beyond the lure. I spent all kinds of time, I didn't catch a thing." But in talking with him, he came to the conclusion that I have come to, and that it's not about what was on the end of the line, but that he got to go check out some place he's never been to before. And that was one of the key points that he put on his learning from the project. So it ranged through that. We had some students who, we had one student who built a little mini motorcycle, a mini bike, and he was investigating how he might be able to do that more economically than going out to just purchase one. And he talked about how he shopped around and then put all the pieces together. They did a good job.
Great.
Again, because it's literacy related, I just want to also thank you and continue to encourage the work that that your art teacher did with the TES teachers as well, for students to create characters and describe them well enough to have a high school student read their writing and create their character, an art form for them, and that connection between high school and elementary. So I just applaud you for that collaboration, and I hope to see that that continues as well.
I think it's going to.
Encourage that writing in the young kids.
There's been a lot of positive talk about that, and I anticipate that it's going to continue. I happen to be because it was raining, they were supposed to get together in the courtyard, so they get together in the gym. And I can attest to the level of energy of
a lot louder.
Half a gym full of fourth graders and a group of high school students with a bunch of characters they just made. It was a scene. So,
yeah, great. Thank you.
You else have any questions? No? Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Director Drysdale, Special Education? All right. Not seeing any. Thank you.
Don't take it personal.
That takes us to Assistant Superintendent Gillis.
I will be sharing a report later this evening, as Bree alluded to, on agenda items 11.3 and 11.4.
All right, thank you. All right, takes us to the superintendent.
I'm just going to review some of the items on the consent agenda. I think I've reported on enough things. So one of the items is the donation of the Chromebooks to the graduates. I'll just remind folks that this is an annual item. There's little to no resale value in the Chromebooks, and we've plenty to spare, and we prefer to offer these to seniors in hopes they'll give those that needed a leg up or a head start on whatever their future holds. So that is, that's on the agenda. I also have for you 2 new hires at a social worker, a shared social worker between Green and Turner Primary School in special education. We're pleased to nominate Valerie Antone. She is coming to us with 4 years of experience working in school. She's coming here from Lewiston, and also in a clinical setting. And references and the interview team talked about her warm interpersonal style, calming and supportive presence for students, staff, and parents, a great communicator and self-motivated. So we're very excited to have her join us. We also have a unicorn, a special education teacher for the middle school. Jana, you're here. Do you want to share a few words on Tina, just to give you some chance to celebrate? This is a position that was not filled this year.
Correct.
It has been open for an entire year, so this literally is like a huge win. Go.
Tina is coming over from Caulfield Middle School, high school. She has about 20 years of experience in special education. Can I share just a piece of her story? So I didn't ask her why she was leaving, because like we're not allowed to ask that in the interview. She brought it up herself. And they've had some substantial cuts within their district, and so they had to RIF some of the special ed positions. She is a senior teacher, but there are a few younger special ed teachers, and she said the one who would have been RIF'd worked in the school. Her husband was a math teacher. They just bought a home in Buckfield, and she said, I can't go to school every day and look at this man knowing that like his wife lost her job because of me. And I was like, you are so kind. And she's like, no, I'm weak. But she said, I still have a lot in me. There was a little bit of like an early retirement incentive, so she took advantage of it. And she's like, your community is very similar. I want to come and continue serving kiddos in the special education field. And so, yeah, a bit of a unicorn for sure under these circumstances. So I'm excited to bring her on board and her experience in particular.
And to continue the wins for Jana Mates, we also have a assistant principal candidate, Rick Soroyce, who's coming over from Oak Hill. Jana?
Yes, Rick is coming with both, actually with middle school principal level experience, middle school assistant principal level experience, and dean of student experience. We had an overwhelming amount of candidates, 20 candidates that applied. We interviewed, the first round was with a panel of staff. We got down to our top 3 candidates, and then we invited them back for half a day, in which they toured the school while students were in the building and teaching was happening. And then we selected a student panel to meet with them. That was an experience. We vetted the questions ahead of time. They went rogue anyway. But it was really awesome to see how the staff did with a group of students they didn't know that was incredibly diverse. And so we did one candidate Wednesday, one candidate Thursday, one candidate Friday, and then Friday afternoon I brought the student panel back together to get their sort of feedback on the candidates. And like, it was unbelievable some of the things that they shared, like that they had sort of perceived or caught on to that like didn't even cross some of the adults' minds. And like a big focus was on safety. Like they were just like, candidate kept talking about kindness and how important kindness is, but they didn't say anything about safety and like how they were going to increase like, you know, safety in a building in the district, and just some of the stuff that like I was expecting them to want to find just like the candidate that was the most fun or laid back, but they like really took it serious. And so thankfully like their top candidate aligned with where the staff had also landed, and so I think it's going to be a really, really good fit. But it was an awesome process.
Yeah, it was a great process. And then you also have in front of you the list of principals and assistant principals to be renewed for an additional year on their contracts. I think that's it.
All right. Thank you very much. Does anybody have anything that like? Yes.
I just have a quick question, Karen. I know, so the social worker at TES, has she been doing TPS too? So
Yes, I think they're realigning. Rebecca, right now, the social worker who was at Green was just at Green, so there's some realignment that's going to happen with this new social worker, correct?
Yes, it's been really important for us to really not look necessarily at the numbers of students, but really the workload. We do that for special education teachers, we do that for service providers, to make sure, because in special education, it's not just instruction, there's case management responsibilities and special education paperwork and things like that. So when we're looking at this role, we were looking at Green, and then we were looking at equitable numbers also in the district, because Green's numbers were lower for students needing social work services for those who have IEPs. We also have a school counselor at Green, and we have a Spurwink counselor as well. So we've also looked at TPS. So this counselor is going to work at Green for 3 days a week, and at TPS 2 days a week. I can't even do my math; it's getting late. And then our TPS, we have somebody between TPS and TES. They're going to shift to TPS, so they're going to have a full-time counselor just for special education services. So we took this opportunity to do restructuring and really looking at the workload. Thank you.
All right. So at this point, does anybody wish to have anything taken out of the consent agenda? No. You can't take anything out. I'm sorry. No. What would you like, Madam?
So I had updated the electricity rates in the consent agenda early this morning between meetings, and I had put in 12 cents, and Ashley had pointed out that it was 12.38 cents. So I would like to update that to the 12.38 cents, please. I'm hopeful to get under 12 cents, but.
Everybody have any, that makes sense to everybody? Of course. No, should, okay. All right, you got that in the official minutes over there?
Do.
All right, good. All right, let's see if I can mess this up like I did the last one. All right, let me just get my mindset. Starts here and ends to here.
Or, sorry, 9.
9.10. Everything's in there. We're not taking anything out of it. Nope. So, all right. Consent agenda, items to be acted upon collectively unless a board member asks that a specific item be acted upon individually. 9.1, consideration and approval of Chromebook donation to Levitt Area High School 2026 graduates. You notice I add words every now and then. Consideration and approval of policy committee recommended second reading and approval of revised policy EHB, school records retention policy. 9.3, consideration and approval of policy committee recommended second reading and approval of revised policy JL MSAD52 wellness policy. 9.4, consideration and approval of policy committee recommended deletion of revised policy EFE, competitive food sales, sales of foods in competition with the school food service program. 9.5, consideration and approval of financial committee recommendation to use the capital repair reserve fund for the Levitt Area High School sprinkler repair and the purchase of 2 mowers. 9.6, consideration and approval of the Finance Committee recommendation to allow the district to lock in electrical supply rate over the summer months if it dips below 12.38 cents per kilowatt hour to include all DASI fees. 9.7, instructional nominations to be acted upon collectively after nominations have been read by superintendent. 9.7.1, Green Central School, Turner Primary School, social worker. 9.7.2, Tripp Middle School special education resource teacher. 9.8, to act on the recommendations of the superintendent for principals, assistant principals, contract extensions. 9.9, to authorize the superintendent of school to offer contracts and hire instructional staff during the summer. And 9.10, nomination of Tripp Middle School assistant principal. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second from Bree and Joe. Sorry, I was looking to the right. All those in favor of the consent agenda? All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you, folks.
Can I just ask for my new vantage point? Did everybody vote in the? There were 8 votes in the affirmative.
Everybody.
Okay, I didn't see Alex. Thank you.
Anthony voted opposed. Okay. All right, that takes us to 10, which we pulled out for this evening, but it is coming back. Don't you worry, folks. And that jumps us to new business, number 11. All right, in case everybody's curious, the budget failed, so we still have to approve of the failure, which is basically what we are doing. So, approval of the budget validation referendum. Are these motions?
Yes, and Gabby's got the numbers.
All right, so.
Do you need me to read them?
Yeah, because it doesn't have the motion just, it doesn't have the actual, it has the it says attached approved.
Okay.
So I am going to make a motion to approve that the computation and declaration of votes dated May 28th, 2026 and attached here to be approved, and the numbers are.
So for the BDR, do you want just the totals or do you want each town?
Just say the totals, because the document will be in the official minutes.
So the affirmative is 276, the negative is 288. And then for the Article 2, whether it's acceptable, too low, or too high, 210 voted it was acceptable, 37 voted too low, and 291 voted too high. For the land purchase,
Is that here?
there were 242 votes in the affirmative and 322 votes in the negative. It failed, both failed.
All right, do I have a second?
Wait, who made the motion?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
That's easier. The second for Joe. There's not really anything to discuss here, so all those in favor of our failure?
You're just approving the document that has the numbers.
It's unanimous. We unanimously approve our failure. All right. 11.1.2. We all set on that one?
Yep.
We have to sign something? No, that'll come.
Yes, you will.
All right. we'll do these and then we'll sign up.
Yeah.
All right, 11.1.2. I'm going to make a motion to approve that the computation and declaration of votes be entered upon the records of Maine School Administrative District number 52. Is it the same numbers?
Yes.
The same numbers as spoken earlier. We have a second from Bree. All those in favor? We've now officially reaffirmed our failure. All right, that takes us to 11.1.3. I make a motion to approve that a certified copy of the computation and declaration of votes be sent to each of the municipal clerks of the member municipalities within Maine School Administrative District number 52. They should know the numbers because they gave them to us. Do we have a second? We have a second from Anthony. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Now we need to do
Now we need to do some signing.
signing. So pause.
After that, folks, we go into curriculum. Move forward. Did you have something before I move forward?
I actually just have a question.
What's that?
Some constituents have asked. They saw a communication from the superintendent that it was very important that we have a budget passed by July 1st. And my question is, and they asked me, well, why is that important? I mean, it seems important, but like, really why?
Yep.
Can we answer that,
Yep.
please?
Yep.
Absolutely.
So our fiscal year runs July 1st to June 30th. We are legally allowed to operate if the budget referendum fails. By law, we can operate on the budget that was passed at the most recent budget meeting. So let's say we aren't able to squeeze in this referendum. Let's just pretend like that wasn't able to happen. We would be able to legally operate on the budget that was passed at the budget meeting, but it's in question. So, right, because we can't really sort of go all in because we don't know what it's going to be reduced to. So I think I said in an email to you all, when the budget failed, we had a candidate for science who withdrew immediately because that is a new position. It is posted as anticipated. So we were not offering that person a contract, which means they can't resign where they're from. And so hiring becomes very difficult and very concerning, and we have a couple of positions that are budget dependent. So the longer we don't have a budget, the longer we're in that gray zone. The science position and the social studies position at the high school are like absolutely necessary. So worst case scenario, if we lost a budget again, we wouldn't reduce those positions. We can't operate, there's not enough classes for kids. But it's just a really bad place to be, to not be able to know the numbers. So it's already had an impact on our ability, and we had one candidate. We've picked up a couple since then, but at that point, there was only one candidate, and they were with experience. So it was a real bummer. Yeah.
That takes us, so we're going to have a presentation before you wish for a motion. So let's have a presentation about curriculum, ELA, and science.
Okay, so I'm here Is that microphone on, Teresa? Gabby? Help her push that. There you go. You got it? You got to push and hold.
It may be dead.
How could it be dead?
You just have to see them. Shall I hold it like this?
There you go.
Like teacher voice?
Yep, absolutely.
Good evening. I'm here in my role as Assistant Superintendent to highlight the work of some exceptional teachers and instructional coaches who have helped us complete and bring forth tonight curriculum in the area of ELA and science. Some considerations.
I don't think you actually need to hold it if you don't want to.
Oh, I'm going to.
Okay.
Because this is now fun. Here, so
Okay,
thank
works
you.
for me.
I like it. I can hear
Can we
you, and I
compete?
appreciate that.
You're welcome.
The 1 year is not
Okay. So when we begin our curriculum work, I put out an all call for teachers and instructional coaches who wish to be part of this content work. We always review these volunteers with principals. I talk with them and explain the commitments that they will be part of. They'll be asked to work stipend days potentially in the summer. They'll also be asked to work during school days because when we do the curriculum work, most of it is done during the school day, and teachers have to plan for substitutes and they're not in front of their classes. So special shout out to the principals for supporting this work. Some additional considerations that I wanted to point out to you. we are tasked as a public school district to implement the main learning results for K to 12 and the MELDs, which are the pre-K standards for our pre-K students. I also want to point out that our elementary schools are currently implementing Into Reading, a program that was purchased by the district with a special literacy grant funded from the Department of Education in Maine, as well as some additional funds from COVID relief. For science, I wanted to highlight that we have varied amounts of time for science instruction in our elementary schools. This just is the nature of elementary school schedule and competing priorities. I also wanted to note that because we did not have an adopted curriculum, the teachers were doing the very best they could and were using, in some cases, a variety of materials and resources. So I'll start with the ELA curriculum. We had a core curriculum committee, which involved members from Levitt, Tripp, Leeds Central School, Turner Elementary School, and Turner Primary School. We also had pre-K teachers who worked exclusively using the MELDs, and because they're a small group of teachers, they all worked collectively together. And then we spent a great deal of time involving all the middle school and all the high school ELA teachers. One of the ELA teachers at the middle school is a special educator as well. And they worked for over 6 hours collectively to ensure that we were able to come up with vertical alignment for ELA, which is very important. It helps avoid redundancies and create gaps. This timeline here shows the amount of time that was put into the ELA work. It actually started in January of 2025 with all the pre-K teachers. They were first across the line. And then we began working in the summer of 2025. We had the full committee work together for 2 days, and then we had the elementary group work just independently because the nature of their work started to differ at this point. We paused in September, October, and November. I took a stint as an interim principal at one of our schools, and then we began again in December. So this timeline highlights all the work that has been done by the committee for ELA. Next up, we have a smaller but still mighty group of curriculum committee members for our writing team. For science, we had representatives from Levitt and Tripp, as well as Green Central School, Turner Elementary School, and Turner Primary School. And then when we were looking at all of our content areas, the biggest change started happening with our 6 to 8 span. And so at this point, we realized we did not have materials, we did not have units to teach. So there was a day spent with 2 of our high school teachers with the 6th grade teachers, and it was some of the best work I've really witnessed in the district because these teachers were working collaboratively with the high school, lending their expertise to teachers at the elementary school that had not specialized in this content, and this was a new area for them to focus in terms of earth and space science. So as you know from reviewing the standards that were sent to you, our 6th grade is going to focus on earth and space science. Our middle school will do life science and physical science, and then they'll pick up that rotation again when they hit high school. And then this is the timeline of our science work. Again, pre-K, got it done in January 2025. Starting in February of 2026, we had full committee work days, and I offered this committee to split up like we had done for ELA, but they felt it was critical that they work together so they could see the full picture, and that's just what they did. Part of the work that I want to highlight here is that I went to a network meeting at the high school so that the network leader, Mike Hathaway, could talk to the team about the changes because they were really going to make some changes in terms of what was taught to freshmen. That was very exciting, and I told Mr. Shaw I've learned a lot about science lately, although we haven't quantified that with an assessment yet. And then We also, because we were not sure, we knew that teachers at the elementary schools had varying times and varied materials that they were using. We actually did a survey, and Nadia Ryu at the middle school and Mike Hathaway went to one of the schools, I went to another, and then committee members covered Turner Elementary School and Turner Primary School. And so from there, we took the survey results to help us make decisions about which standards we selected. And I'm here this evening as our final leg, and I hope that you will support the work of these teachers. It's something I'm really proud of in this second year of our focus on curriculum work, that we have been able to bring forth 2 content areas. If you remember last year, we brought forward 3. So I am hopeful for your vote of approval so that the teachers can begin the next work in this process. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve 11.3, which is the ELA? We have a motion from Bree, a second from Kyle. I turned left.
I wasn't.
It's against my nature, but I turned left. We have a motion and a
He's
second.
on the board. It's your first one of the night.
Yeah.
I just naturally. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions, thoughts on ELA? Anthony?
So, Peter, you will remember, you sat in on this next to last meeting that we had, where we had the committee talk about what they were going to be recommending. And you and I talked at that meeting about the importance of writing, literally handwriting, the importance of being able to do it and being able to read it. There are the founding documents of this country are written in cursive. Not being able to write and read cursive is a huge deficit in somebody's abilities. We talked about that quite a bit. We talked about how note-taking, physical note-taking reinforces learning. There's a lot of research that shows that. That was affirmed by some of the staff who were there. But then at our last meeting, when the curriculum came, or the standards came to us, I asked, well, where's writing in here? And it isn't. And I find that to be really disappointing. It seemed to me that the feedback that we had given was going to be taken back, and they would talk about it and find some way to kind of work it in, and they didn't. The only place that I think Bree was the one who pointed out, well, you know, like in first or second grade, it says that they're expected to write some letters, or print, rather, some letters. That's really not the same thing. And so I am going to make a motion to amend this motion to send this back to that committee of teachers to get some handwriting into the standards for English, for ELA.
Do we have a second? We don't at this time, and okay, we have a second from Ashley. So we do have a motion on the floor to basically not amend it, send it back to curriculum. Great.
So remember, keep in mind that the standards that we are approving tonight come to us from the Maine Learning Results and MELDS, again, for our pre-K students. And across the state of Maine, cursive writing is not a standard through the Maine Learning Results. And this is what we are working with, is our Maine Learning Results. And by law, we are required to use those standards. And I'm just going to put this out there as well, and I have another statement that I'm going to read to you that I've prepared, because this was talked about at a couple of our committee meetings, so I knew it was going to come up. But the role of our committee is not for us to necessarily like create standards essentially out of our own agendas, out of thin air, and require the teachers to implement them. We are required as a school board, as a committee, to take what the teachers have said, these are the laws, the standards we must follow, and these are the standards we are choosing to make as our essential standards and our supporting standards, what they will be assessing as teachers, what they will be grading the students on. And it's not our jobs to create new standards that are not part of Maine state law. With that being said, cursive writing is not a requirement to be a successful adult or global citizen in the 21st century. Most modern communication happens digitally through typing, texting, email, collaborative platforms, video communication, and multimedia tools. These skills such as critical thinking, communication, adaptability, digital literacy, collaboration, and media literacy are far more essential to success today. I agree that cursive writing can still have value, as Anthony has mentioned, such as fine motor development, handwriting fluency and speed, personal expression and signature writing, but those benefits do not make cursive universally necessary. Many successful adults rarely use cursive beyond signing their names in their daily jobs. In international and global contexts, as we want our students to be citizens in our towns and our state, but perhaps even nationally and globally, in those contexts, people communicate across languages and technologies in countless ways that have nothing to do with cursive handwriting. A more relevant question for education today may be what literacy skills best prepare students for participation in modern civic, professional, and global communities. Skills like reading comprehension, clear written communication, digital communication etiquette. I'll repeat again, digital communication etiquette, research and source evaluation, AI and media literacy, cross-cultural communication, creativity and problem solving. Cursive can certainly be taught as a tool or an art form among many. But treating it as an essential for adulthood to read the Declaration of Independence or a letter from a great-grandmother is difficult to really justify in a world where communication technologies and workplace demands have changed so dramatically. There is no reliable workforce data showing that a significant percentage of modern careers require regular cursive writing or cursive reading. If you were talking about routine, job essential use of cursive in 2026 and beyond, the percentage is very small and arguably closer to a very small niche of subset professions. And we are trying to educate in this district students to be able to go out into a plethora of workforce careers. Careers where cursive may still appear regularly include historians and archivists reading primary documents. A small percentage of our students may get there. Some legal or governmental work involving handwritten records, genealogy and museum work, older institutional systems that still use handwritten documentation. Even in those fields, employees will usually learn specialized handwriting reading skills on the job, just like many of the other trainings that every employer gives to their employees. If you are required to read the Declaration of Independence because you work in a museum with it, you will learn to read it on the job, rather than relying heavily on elementary cursive instruction that they got in 2nd through 6th grade. By contrast, nearly all careers now prioritize keyboarding fluency, digital collaboration, professional email and messaging, reading informational text, communication skills, data literacy, problem solving, and adaptability with technology and AI tools. Should schools place more emphasis on cursive writing when modern careers do not demand it? The evidence points to no. Most employers are not asking whether someone can write in cursive. They are asking whether someone can communicate clearly, think critically, collaborate, learn new systems quickly, and navigate digital environments effectively. A balanced approach many educators today take is to teach cursive exposure. It can still happen. You can still teach it. It doesn't need to be a required standard for certain grades that's not part of our main learning results. You can still teach it and basic competency, but to prioritize instructional time towards broader literacy, communication, and digital readiness skills that students will use daily in their adulthood is where the priority should be. From an instructional design perspective, opportunity cost matters. Time spent intensively drilling cursive is not time spent on reading comprehension, writing development, media literacy, research skills, keyboarding, or civic discourse. In today's workforce, those competencies have a far stronger connection to long-term success than fluent cursive handwriting and reading.
Thank you. I'm just going to emphasize, I was at the meetings. My initial conversation was around cursive. And after discussion with a variety of teachers and so forth, I boiled down to my real concern being penmanship and writing in general. Not necessarily cursive. Cursive came up and is as part of the discussion. I felt that, and after discussions with some of the teachers as well, specifically at the high school level, which is where I felt that the penmanship and neatness factor was being dropped a little bit, is that it is something that does need to be worked on and will be worked on, and it's already in the curriculum and in the process. It was just being overlooked as we approach the digital age. The world of spell check, the world of the computer rewriting our sentences for us, and the computer doing a lot of our writing just with the typing and so forth. And I felt that we need to spend more time in classes specifically using pen and paper, understanding that I grew up with cursive, but it doesn't necessarily have to be cursive. I was leaning more towards pen and paper, and I don't care if you're writing cursive, block letters, or crayons, it just needs to be neat. And the only thing that I will say, in contrary to the statement that just happened, is that I do believe employers are very much looking for, regardless what's brought forward, that it's neat, it's legible, and it's correctly spelled and correctly grammatical, no matter if it's in an email or if it's written. And that's what I'm seeing leaving. And that was my concern that I brought forward. And I will continue to pursue that. I will continue to pursue that. But that's not the issue up at hand right now. So I'm not going to necessarily be in favor of this because I'm not in favor of sending it back or adding cursive issue. But that's, it is an issue that I think we do need to keep an eye on. Ashley, but yes. Ashley had her hand up for a while ago.
Yeah, I don't have a thought on cursive writing, but I guess I just want to hear more about what you said. So you brought up the concerns with more writing, penmanship, but pen and paper in general. What is the plan?
That's why I do. So I'm going to ask Teresa to talk about, because we do teach handwriting, I just want to be clear. Like, kids are taught to write. And if you have kids in younger grades, you know this, right? People who, okay. It's like we have live people who watch kids be taught to handwrite. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, there are sometimes tiers for that, yes.
Well, there are,
Okay. So under the writing standards, standard 3, starting in kindergarten, routinely produce a variety of clear and coherent writing in which the development, organization, and style are appropriate to task, printing upper and lowercase letters using a combination of drawing and writing, and that continues through. We are in pre-K. Most of our teachers are utilizing the support of Handwriting Without Tears. They also do work closely with the OTs, the occupational therapists, to support writing. I have observed, and Alex, you may be familiar with this, in our kindergarten and first grade classrooms, UFly, which is the component that partners with Into Reading. They are practicing the formation of letters, and then it continues into second grade and beyond. So I heard the discussion around cursive. Tonight the motion is around handwriting, so I just want to make sure people.
We'll clarify the motion in a second.
Okay, so.
Well, the motion is to send it back to the.
But it was to include handwriting.
Add handwriting at the committee level, but I just wanted to point out that these standards that are presented tonight do include printing and handwriting.
I just want to emphasize that my concern is not at the elementary level.
It's about the quality of the handwriting.
It's the
when they're
middle school
teenagers.
and the high school level,
Yes.
exactly.
Thank you.
I think it
Noted.
gets left. I think it's,
Noted.
I think my paper was very red when it came back from the teacher, and anyways, Jenny.
So how's that handwriting now?
I was gonna say.
Actually, if you want, I was complimented the other day.
So I do know when we were at our meetings, Mike Hathaway, who is a teacher at the high school, did speak to us and say that he does like to make sure that papers are presented very neatly. He does check for that. He does grade on that. He does check for spelling. So the teachers that were there and presented to us did say that they look for that and they grade on it and they will send it back to kids to do.
All right, any other, the current motion is to, Anthony.
Sure, thank you. I'd like to talk to a couple of the things that were brought up. First of all, the idea that this committee and this board act as rubber stamps really gets my hackles up, right? We are elected to provide oversight. We are not elected to say, oh, there's a process and we just follow the process. It doesn't really matter what comes through, we just stamp it and off it goes because somebody said, hey, we recommend this. That's just irresponsible. And to be told by the chairperson of this committee that you know, our job is not to insert new standards out of thin air is patently offensive when I've said, well, there's actual data that supports these things. That's not thin air. So kindly actually try to represent.
Okay, I understand.
Excuse me, Peter.
No, Anthony, Anthony.
The floor is mine.
No, the floor is mine. So remember that for a second. She was making a presentation, just don't direct it.
And you didn't interrupt her at all.
I didn't because she wasn't directing at you.
Peter,
she was directing
it doesn't matter.
It does. You do not just...
I will just continue, shall I?
Yes, but just remember, keep it as, you know, as docile as possible, please.
So I can't mention a member's name?
Well, just keep it...
No, point of order. Can I mention a member's name?
You shouldn't instigate a member. I'm trying to keep this as
what
docile...
What does that mean, instigate a member? This would have been a whole lot simpler if you had kept silent, not interrupted me.
No, it would have been... Anthony,
yes.
I've been very... let's just keep it. I'm trying to keep, as I've told you before, I want to keep the temperature down.
Then the best way to do that is to allow me to speak without interrupting me.
As long as you speak...
If I have not broken protocol...
Great.
You are so... This is ridiculous.
When I'm speaking, it's the end. As long as we speak to each other in an easy manner, that's all I'm asking. That's it, okay? We're just going to speak politely to each other. We do not need to insult each other. We can have differing opinions, but we do not need to insult each other. That's a given.
I was insulted when it was described that I was inventing things.
That was not an insult, Anthony.
Well, I took it as an insult.
I'm sorry you did, but we need to let that go.
Maybe, if you're going to enforce some rules, you ought to do it a little bit more consistently.
I do.
Okay.
Well, I beg to differ, sir.
Okay. But you can continue, just keep it without trying to keep it from insulting individual people. It just will go simpler.
So, the idea that this board is inventing things out of thin air is somehow out of it infuriates me. This board has every right to add learning standards as we see fit. This is local control. That's the whole point of a school board.
I don't disagree with you on that one, for the record.
Well, somebody who I won't name seems to think that this is completely out of line.
That's their
And,
opinion.
I'm inventing things out of thin air. So let's get back to this.
Okay.
Simply because the state doesn't say we should have a handwriting standard it does not mean that we cannot adopt one. It does not mean that we are stepping out of bounds by adopting one. None of what my colleague said refuted the facts that writing by hand, not taking notes, typing, writing by hand reinforces learning. It simply does. For that colleague to focus completely on job readiness is a little bit disingenuous. What I'm talking about is standards that will help our students achieve. I'm not sure if the rest of this board has realized it, but our students are not performing in the top half of the state, right? We're just not. Maine in general is really bad, and our school district is middling. This is a simple way that we could give our students a tool that doesn't really cost very much, that is going to help them succeed at being students, and it will have payoffs long into their lives. The idea that oh, well, you know, employers aren't looking for that. You know what employers are looking for? Employers are looking for people who can do things. I spent the entire week so far at Auburn Middle School as a guest in their art classroom. And I can tell you that fine motor skills are a huge deficit in this middle school in a way that they were not 30 years ago when I began my career. Why is that? Because kids don't handwrite anymore. They simply don't do it. My son is in a welding program. Part of his homework is to write these like thousands of little circles. And his professor, his instructor, is really amazed at the quality of these. And it translates absolutely directly into the quality of the work that he can do as a welder. Those fine motor skills have to be developed somehow. They don't just come out of thin air. So it's going to help our kids be better in art class. It's going to help our kids be better in music class if they're playing a stringed instrument. It's going to help them be better woodworkers, because those all absolutely require fine motor skills.
Jenny?
Can I call the question?
Yep.
Thank you. You read
We
the
have, we have a second. All those in favor call on the question. We have
Crystal
one,
was
two,
second, right?
three. Yes, Crystal was second. Opposed, call on the question.
Okay.
All those abstained?
Okay.
Call the question. We are on the amendment. Huh?
Yes.
What was the vote?
0, 4 abstain.
Or 2 didn't vote, I don't think.
Yes, you do.
Oh,
I don't know.
he's probably right.
Yeah. What's a majority?
Yep, so it fails. It fails. So we're still under discussion. Any further discussion? Yes.
I have a question for Ad, because I do want to kind of understand this a little bit more. I generally agree a lot with handwriting while we're using technology. How, by questioning whether that's something that is necessarily, the improvements that are being suggested are through the standards versus just the policing needed through how it's being done. What's your take on that?
I didn't hear you.
So what's the take on, does it need to be a standard? In my mind, is it a standard or instructional strategy? Like in terms of if the concern is over the quality of student handwriting, do the materials that we have provide those materials for teachers to use? And so it's an instructional issue in terms of how often they're using it or what they're doing it? Is that, am I?
Yeah, and
I
using,
guess I would want-
say writing more in general, note-taking. I mean, I don't think anyone can dispute that with, you know, you're using pen and paper, that, you know, that muscle movement definitely increases your retention. But, so yeah, Carrie posed a correct.
So the elementary schools have an hour of writing in the schedule every day. And
well, it's
supposed to be an hour of reading, an hour of writing.
Yeah.
Right, and with some variation, but it's a double block of that instruction.
So I guess I'm hearing that handwriting is atrocious. And I would say that as a former kindergarten teacher, it is important that we support the development of students' hand muscles. And I have observed that happening in our classrooms. So when comments are made that handwriting is not being considered important, Jenny, I think you spoke to expectations of teachers. I don't think it's a simple answer, Ashley, honestly. I think, can we focus on our expectations and work to improve them? Absolutely.
But I'm not sure that that's a standard as much as instructional practice strategy and making sure teachers have the strategies they can implement to appropriately teach it. Like the standard isn't necessarily going to improve the teaching strategy. Teachers need those strategies in professional development if that's what needs to happen.
I do know when we talked under each of the standards, there was about, because I spent every lunch break reading every single one of these, it does talk about that students need to build concise, precise notes and make precise note-taking. So it is, note-taking is actually under the standards.
You think?
Right, so the problem with that is that note-taking is under the standards, but note-taking how? Note-taking on your computer does not have the same effect as note-taking by hand. It simply doesn't. And when we say writing most often these days is done on a computer. It might be more properly called composition, right? Because it's not writing. Writing is with your hand, not with a stylus, not on a keyboard. And it seems to me that if we don't have a standard, then we don't have something that we can hold our staff accountable to. If it's merely some kind of, it gets too easily lost. If our leadership leaves, this board rotates all the time, pretty soon that's gone. If it's a standard, it's there. You can point to it. Everybody can say, how are you teaching to this standard? And it won't really involve a whole lot extra work. All I'm at, and I'm actually not even saying this is the standard that I want. I'm saying let's put it back to this group of professionals saying we want to see some handwriting stuff in here. How do we reinforce handwriting? Please come up with a new recommendation of some standards, please. They're creating the standards, not me. I'm not inventing it out of thin air. I'm asking people whose job it is to do this to please use their expertise and give us a new recommendation. That's what this motion is for.
So I think I'll just suggest that we're making assumptions about whether or not handwriting is being already taught and whether or not the standards we have are sufficient. So I wonder if what would be more useful is to ask for some of that information from teachers in the fall to say, give us some examples of how they're teaching handwriting to meet the standards that we currently have.
I don't think that that's more effective. I would like the standard.
But I think I'm just making, I think what I'm saying is it may be that the standards that we have and are approving are sufficient. We need that information from teachers. I think I would like to suggest that gathering, knowing that we've got people whose children are in schools and getting handwriting instruction, I would be curious to hear from elementary teachers in particular, but we can also talk about the high school level, what they are doing with handwriting. And to just, my recommendation would be to move these standards. There's a lot connected with these standards that is really important work for us to be able to put in place in the fall, including report cards, that we can then gather that information. And if we learn that there's not enough going on, then those standards can be amended. They can be amended. But I think we're making assumptions without enough information, with a sense of something that's not happening, and we don't know that. So that's what I think.
I think what Karen just proposes is a valuable idea. My daughter in kindergarten, I see writing a lot. My son in 6th grade, I see almost zero. My daughter probably has better handwriting than my son. But I do think it's important, you know, as a employer in town, I've employed dozens of kids from the district, and when you get a job application and you have to double check the routing number or the bank account number to make sure it's the number that you think it is, you do make judgments upon the child, maybe not rightfully so, and, you know, but it is important, you know, to be able to write clearly. Same with a resume. You know, if I get a resume that I am pretty positive is written by AI,
Well, that's not a handwriting
no,
problem.
it's
That's
not,
a cheating
but
problem.
It's a technology kind of realm, but you know, if I can tell someone took the time to write it themselves, I have a bit higher opinion. But I do think it's something we don't want to get lost in, you know, the advancement of technology. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of saying what I was saying. All right. Yes, Anthony.
So to speak to what the superintendent just said, that conversation happened in this committee twice. And the people present really were at a loss to explain exactly how consistently from grades pre-K through 12, writing is expected of the students. They said, yeah, it's absolutely happening at the early level, not really later. We just kind of, we just wave it off. So once again,
There's side conversations, Anthony, there's side conversations there always is.
once again, it would be better to have a standard. And I would like that standard to come from this group. It seems to me the best process. We can still have it in place for the fall. There's time between now and the end of the year. It's not a superhuman task.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to send it back. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to send it back to the curriculum committee? This is the in favor. All those opposed? Abstained? One actually abstained. All right, that takes us back to the original motion, which is the consideration of the ELA curriculum. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor of moving forward with the ELA curriculum? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Abstaining. All right. Let's go from language.
Oh, I was going to make the motion for the next one.
You're eager for science. Steve looks comfy. He's not ready to go anywhere. All right, do we have a motion for the science curriculum? We have a motion from Jenny. Kyle seconded the motion on the science curriculum.
Good job. Thank you, Kyle.
All right. Any discussion, thoughts, concerns, questions on the science curriculum at this time? Not seeing then. All those in favor of moving forward with the science curriculum as presented? All those opposed? Unanimous. That, folks,
Should I make a motion to adjourn?
is the end of the day. We have a motion to adjourn from Jenny. We have a second from Kyle. Steve voted in abstention over there. So I will see you all here.
Did you actually have people?
All those in favor? Yeah, they're all in favor. It's
Okay,
unanimous.
thank you.
I'll see you all on June 11th in the auditorium, folks.
5:30 for the budget meeting.